Welcome to Mr. Sleepy Stories. Tonight we'll have a gentle chat about penguins. Out there where the sea meets the snow, these graceful birds live lives of quiet endurance. They walk together through icy winds, dive deep beneath shimmering waves, and return each year to the same familiar shores, loyal to the rhythms of Earth itself. Beneath their soft tuxedo feathers, warmth and patience mingle. Every step, every call, every shimmer of silver under the water tells a story of resilience and calm. We'll drift through their world tonight, through colonies that hum like lullabies, through the silence of the Antarctic dawn, through the gentle rhythm of wings turned to flippers, gliding through endless blue. As we listen, you may find yourself breathing a little slower, your thoughts settling like snow, as these remarkable creatures remind us that peace often lives inside stillness and trust. If you enjoy what I do here, please like, subscribe, and share your experiences with this video topic in the comments below. I'd love to read your stories and hear how these calming facts help you relax before bed. Long before penguins waddled across the ice, their ancestors ruled the skies. Around 60 million years ago, not long after the last dinosaurs vanished, a line of flying seabirds began to change. The world's climate was cooling, the oceans teemed with fish, and the air was crowded with new species competing for survival. Some birds found their fortune not in the air, but in the water. Generation by generation, their wings grew shorter and sturdier. Feathers became sleek and dense, shedding the shape meant for flight and taking on the smooth form of a swimmer's paddle. The bones inside those wings fused like armor, turning what once lifted them into tools for diving. What began as a simple adjustment, chasing fish a little deeper, staying underwater a little longer, became one of evolution's great success stories. Fossils tell this tale like snapshots in stone. In ancient rock, scientists have uncovered the remains of half-bird, half-penguin creatures, with wings midway between flight and flipper, showing the exact moment of transformation. These early penguins didn't yet live in Antarctica. They glided through temperate seas, mastering their new world, long before the Ice Age shaped their modern descendants. In losing the sky, penguins gained the ocean. Their story reminds us that survival doesn't always mean staying the same. Sometimes it means surrendering one gift to gain another. Every sleek dive they take today echoes millions of years of quiet, stubborn adaptation, written not in words, but in the rhythm of wings reborn as fins. At first glance, it feels obvious. Penguins and puffins must be family. Both wear tuxedo feathers, both dive for fish, and both look like tiny sailors braving the sea. But nature loves to play tricks on the eye. Despite their shared charm, penguins and puffins are distant strangers, separated by millions of years of evolution and an entire hemisphere of ocean. Puffins belong to the north, the cold cliffs of Iceland, Norway, and Alaska. They're agile flyers, beating their wings fast enough to blur through the air. Penguins, on the other hand, never leave the southern hemisphere. Their wings have become flippers, built for slicing through water, not air. Their worlds never cross in the wild. So who are penguins truly related to? The answer surprises most scientists the first time they trace the genetic lines. Their closest cousins are the great wanderers of the sea, the albatrosses and petrels. These soaring giants glide effortlessly over southern oceans, following the same winds and waters penguins swim beneath. Fossils and DNA alike tell the same story. They share an ancient ancestor that split into two paths, one that stayed in the air and another that dove beneath the waves. It's a perfect example of convergent evolution, where unrelated creatures, shaped by similar challenges, begin to look alike. The puffin's face mirrors the penguin's, not because of family ties, but because both mastered the same art, living between sea and sky. In the end, resemblance can be deceiving. A tuxedo doesn't make a family. It just means that evolution, once again, found more than one way to dress for the sea. It's hard to picture a penguin looking you in the eye. Yet long before the world froze into its modern form, there walked a penguin nearly the height of a person, a creature known as Polyeuctiptes klakowski. Fossils of this ancient bird, found in the cold rocks of Antarctica, tell of a time 37 million years ago when penguins ruled the seas in a way that feels almost mythical. This giant stood more than 2 meters tall, with a beak like a spear and bones thick enough to anchor it against powerful currents. It may have weighed over 100 kilograms, not the wobbling figure we know today, but a sleek underwater hunter. Scientists believe its size gave it remarkable endurance, allowing it to dive deeper and stay submerged longer than any penguin alive now. Antarctica back then wasn't the icy desert we imagine. It was a temperate paradise, full of forests and rich coastal waters teeming with fish. With few land predators and abundant food, penguins grew larger generation after generation, their bodies sculpted by opportunity rather than struggle. Polyeuctiptes likely swam with deliberate strength, moving through the water like a black and white torpedo, utterly at home in its ancient sea. But as Earth cooled and ice spread southward, their giant age ended. The big penguins vanished, replaced by smaller, more agile species, better suited to the changing world. Still, when we watch today's emperor penguin standing proud against the snow, it's easy to glimpse that ancient legacy, a faint echo of a time when penguins were giants and the southern oceans were their kingdom. When most people picture a penguin, they see the same image, a little black and white bird dressed like it's headed to a dinner party. But the earliest penguins would have stood out at that gathering. Fossilized feathers, preserved for millions of years, reveal that ancient penguins once wore coats of rusty red and soft gray, colors more like desert sand than polished marble. This discovery came from microscopic pigments found in fossils from Peru and New Zealand. Under powerful microscopes, scientists can still see melanosomes, tiny structures that once carried color. Their shapes and patterns told a surprising story. Early penguins weren't tuxedoed at all. Their plumage blended with rocky shores and coastal shallows, hinting that they hunted closer to the surface where light was stronger. As millions of years passed and penguins adapted to deeper dives, nature rewrote their wardrobe. Black backs began to absorb heat and disappear into the dark ocean below, while white bellies reflected sunlight from above, a camouflage trick called countershading. To predators looking up, or prey glancing down, the penguin's body vanished into the background. Their fashion, it turned out, was a matter of survival. The shift from red and gray to black and white wasn't about beauty. It was about physics, light, and the art of not being seen. Today, their color feels timeless, a symbol of elegance and endurance. But hidden beneath every glossy feather lies a history of change, proof that even the simplest design can take millions of years to perfect. Somewhere in the fossil record, a few reddish feathers still whisper of the time before tuxedos, when penguins wore the colors of earth instead of snow. Most birds are built like whispers, light, hollow, and airy, their bones designed to catch the wind. But penguins tell a different story. Beneath their feathers lies a skeleton unlike any other bird's, solid, dense, and heavy, without the honeycomb air pockets that make flight possible. To the sky, that would be a burden. To the sea, it's perfect. In the ocean, buoyancy can be a problem. A bird with hollow bones would bob helplessly on the surface, unable to dive deep or stay submerged long. Penguins solved this by trading air for weight. Their bones are thick and compact, acting like natural ballast. Every dive they take is smooth and controlled, their bodies slipping beneath the waves without resistance. Where gulls rise, penguins sink, not as failure, but as mastery. Fossil evidence shows that this transformation began soon after penguins gave up flight. Their ancestors, once light-boned flyers, gradually became swimmers who carried gravity as a tool. Each generation that dove deeper favored heavier bones, and nature rewarded the ones that moved with steadiness instead of speed. You can almost imagine it, a penguin plunging through icy water, wings slicing in slow rhythm, the pull of the sea perfectly balanced by the weight of its bones. In a world where most birds fight to stay aloft, penguins embraced the fall and turned it into grace. Their skeleton is a quiet reminder that strength isn't always about rising. Sometimes it's about the beauty of sinking, willingly, elegantly, into the element you were meant to master. A penguin's wing no longer reaches for the sky. It slices through the sea. What was once meant for flight has been sculpted into something entirely new, a flipper built for speed and power. Inside, its bones tell the story of this transformation. Unlike other birds, whose wings flex and bend with each flap, a penguin's wing is stiff, compact, and fused together, a single, strong paddle, more like the fin of a seal than the limb of a sparrow. This rigidity gives it strength. Each movement through the water is deliberate and forceful, pushing the penguin forward with the precision of an oar cutting through calm waves. Beneath the surface, their flight continues, not in air, but in liquid blue. Their flippers beat in the same motion as wings, up and down, creating lift and thrust that let them glide as gracefully underwater as eagles do in the sky. When scientists study their skeletons, they find bones flattened and reinforced, built to endure the pressure of deep dives. The shoulder joints are powerful hinges, the muscles dense and layered, the whole structure designed to trade lightness for control. And yet, for all this change, the rhythm remains the same. Penguins still fly, just in a heavier world. There's a quiet poetry in that idea. Evolution didn't take away their wings. It simply changed the sky they soar through. Watch a penguin twist and spin beneath the waves, flippers flashing silver in the dim light, and it's easy to see that flight never really ended. It just found a new direction. Downward, into the deep. Underneath that sleek black and white coat lies a secret of survival. Penguins wear more feathers per square inch than any other bird on Earth. What looks like smooth skin from afar is actually a living armor of thousands of tiny plumes packed so tightly that water barely touches the skin beneath. Each feather is short, stiff, and overlapping, creating a surface that feels more like velvet than fluff, a perfect balance of softness and strength. This dense covering works like a quilted wetsuit. Between every feather, thin pockets of air become trapped, forming an invisible layer of insulation. When a penguin dives into near-freezing water, that air barrier prevents heat from escaping, keeping the bird warm even in temperatures that would freeze human skin in seconds. And when they surface, a quick shake sends icy droplets flying, leaving them almost dry within moments. But their feathers do more than insulate. They help control buoyancy, keeping the penguin stable as it dives and glides. Before swimming, penguins spend long minutes preening, aligning each feather and coating it with oil from a gland near the tail. It's a careful ritual, a daily act of maintenance that keeps the sea from soaking through. Scientists estimate that an emperor penguin has over 100 feathers per square inch, 5 to 10 times more than most birds. Every one of them matters. In the bitter Antarctic wind, survival isn't about size or strength. It's about the quiet efficiency of design. Each feather is a thread in a masterpiece woven by evolution. Proof that sometimes the smallest details build the warmest defenses. If you could run your hand down a penguin's back, you'd feel something smooth and firm, not fluffy like most birds, but sleek like polished silk. That texture comes from a remarkable design. Each tiny feather overlaps the next, arranged in perfect order like roof tiles on a house. Together, They create a waterproof barrier so effective that not even Antarctic seawater can break through. This clever layering does more than keep penguins dry. Beneath the surface, tiny pockets of air stay trapped between the feathers, forming an invisible shield of warmth. When the bird dives into icy water, that trapped air clings to the body, slowing heat loss and making the penguin buoyant. You can sometimes see the bubbles shimmer as a penguin surfaces, the air escaping in a sparkling trail behind it. Underneath those outer feathers lies a second layer, soft, downy plumes that feel almost like fleece. They trap additional warmth, working with the outer coat to create one of nature's most advanced insulation systems. It's a double armor, air and feather, protecting a creature that spends most of its life surrounded by cold. Every day, penguins tend this armor with care. They preen for hours, aligning each tile, spreading oil to keep it flexible and water-repellent. It's maintenance not out of vanity, but survival. In a sense, penguins wear the perfect raincoat, one crafted not by humans, but by millions of years of trial and adaptation. Each overlapping feather is a tiny masterpiece, a reminder that evolution's best inventions often look simple until you see what they endure. Beneath a penguin's tidy coat of feathers lies a secret armor, a thick layer of fat known as blubber. Hidden under the skin, this soft, pale layer can grow up to 3 centimeters thick, wrapping the penguin in warmth that no winter wind can steal. It's not visible from the outside, but it's one of the reasons these birds can thrive where temperatures drop below -50 degrees Celsius and the ocean is a cradle of ice. Blubber works like nature's built-in heater. It traps body heat, slowing the escape of warmth into the water. While feathers guard the surface, blubber protects from within, forming a second living blanket. When a penguin dives deep, that fat layer keeps its core temperature steady, no matter how cold the current becomes. But blubber isn't just for warmth, it's also an energy bank. During long Antarctic winters or breeding seasons, when food can be scarce, penguins rely on these reserves to survive. Emperor penguin fathers, who stand for months without eating while guarding their eggs, burn through their blubber slowly, turning stored energy into endurance. By the time the eggs hatch, their once rounded bodies tell the story of sacrifice written in fat and patience. Even buoyancy is shaped by this layer. It helps penguins float when resting, yet compresses easily under pressure during dives, keeping them agile underwater. Every gram serves a purpose. It's easy to admire a penguin's sleek feathers or graceful swim, but their true resilience lies in what we can't see. Beneath the black and white surface, blubber hums quietly with life. A silent warmth, proof that in the frozen corners of the world, survival is built from the inside out. When a penguin slips beneath the waves, it enters a world where breath no longer matters, at least not for a while. Some species can stay underwater for more than 20 minutes, diving hundreds of meters deep in search of food. The secret behind this astonishing feat isn't magic, it's in their blood. Penguins carry a quiet advantage inside every drop, an abundance of hemoglobin, the molecule that stores and delivers oxygen throughout the body. In most birds, oxygen runs out quickly, forcing them to resurface. But penguin blood is richer, darker, and denser, holding far more hemoglobin than that of a typical flyer. This means every heartbeat carries a deeper reserve of air. As they dive, their bodies slow down deliberately. Heart rate drops, digestion pauses, and muscles switch to using stored oxygen. Even their spleen acts as a backup tank, releasing extra red blood cells when needed. The effect is breathtakingly efficient. While humans would struggle after just a minute without air, a penguin glides calmly through freezing darkness, using each molecule with precision. Their muscles contain a special protein called myoglobin, giving them a second oxygen supply directly within the tissue. A quiet partnership between blood and muscle that keeps them moving through the depths. When they finally surface, they exhale a thin stream of bubbles, a reminder of the invisible system that sustained them. Penguins are living lessons in control. They don't rush. They don't panic. Their secret isn't strength, but balance, the art of slowing life itself to fit the rhythm of the sea. In the middle of the endless southern sea, where waves rise and fall like slow breathing, penguins sometimes stop, not to feed, not to swim, but to sleep. They drift on the surface like small boats, their bodies buoyed by air trapped in feathers and a layer of fat beneath the skin. Heads tucked gently onto their chests, eyes close, and the ocean rocks them into stillness. It's one of nature's quietest scenes, a moment of rest in a place that never truly sleeps. Floating sleep might sound risky, but penguins are built for it. Their waterproof feathers keep them dry, and their dense blubber holds in warmth even when the water bites with cold. They drift in small groups, their bodies rising and falling with the rhythm of the sea, half aware of their surroundings. Like many birds, penguins can sleep with one half of their brain resting while the other stays alert, a built-in safeguard against danger. A gentle movement or the sound of a wave is enough to wake them. These ocean naps can happen anywhere, between dives, during long journeys, or even at night beneath the faint southern lights. It rests in motion, a balance between vulnerability and trust. There's something deeply poetic in this habit. In the vast, indifferent ocean, penguins find a way to rest not by fighting the water, but by yielding to it. Each gentle drift is a reminder that peace doesn't always require stillness on land. Sometimes it comes as you float, head bowed, trusting the waves to cradle you safely until the next dive begins. Among all penguins, one species moves through the ocean with unmatched speed and grace: the gentoo penguin. Sleek, streamlined, and tireless, this bird can cut through the sea at speeds up to 36 kilometers per hour. That's faster than a dolphin's casual glide, and nearly 10 times quicker than a human Olympic swimmer. Watching one underwater feels like watching pure motion. No hesitation, no wasted effort, just precision. The Gentu's body is built for it. Its flippers are long and blade-like, powered by dense muscles that beat in steady rhythm. Its body tapers smoothly from head to tail, minimizing drag, while its short legs and webbed feet act as rudders, steering with subtle adjustments. Every curve, every movement seems engineered for efficiency. Speed, for the Gentoo, is survival. In the icy waters of the Southern Ocean, predators like leopard seals and orcas lurk in silence. A burst of acceleration can mean the difference between life and death. But that same speed also makes them master hunters. With a quick flick of their flippers, they can outmaneuver darting schools of krill or fish, twisting and rolling with astonishing agility. Scientists studying Gentoos have observed them using porpoising, leaping repeatedly from the water like dolphins to maintain momentum while breathing. Each leap conserves energy, allowing them to travel vast distances without slowing down. And yet, for all their athleticism, Gentoo penguins don't race for glory. They move with the calm focus of creatures perfectly suited to their world. In every dive, they embody balance, strength without strain, speed without chaos. Watching them reminds us that true power often looks effortless, hidden in the quiet rhythm of a creature doing exactly what it was born to do. Far below the frozen surface of Antarctica, where sunlight fades to blue and pressure builds like a silent weight, the emperor penguin continues to descend. No other bird on Earth dives as deep. Some have been recorded plunging more than 500 meters, half a kilometer straight down into the cold, black belly of the ocean. For nearly 20 minutes they vanish into the deep, hunting where few living creatures dare to go. To survive such a journey, their bodies have become miracles of adaptation. Their bones are flexible, bending under pressure instead of breaking. Their hearts slow to a calm, steady rhythm, sometimes to just a few beats per minute, conserving oxygen for the organs that need it most. Blood flow to muscles is carefully reduced, while their tissues store their own oxygen through a protein called myoglobin. It's a perfect system of restraint and endurance. Down there, light is nearly gone. The water feels still, silentless, endless. Yet the emperor penguin moves without panic, gliding through the gloom with quiet certainty. Its dark back merges with the sea, its white belly with the faint glow above, a ghost slipping through the depths. It hunts squid, fish, and krill that drift like flickering lanterns in the abyss. When it finally ascends, lungs expanding again with air, it bursts from the surface in a shower of ice crystals, alive, victorious, unshaken. The emperor penguin's dive is more than a feat of endurance. It's a meditation written in movement. While the world above howls with wind and snow, far below, a single bird glides through the quiet heart of the planet, mastering not the sky, but the deep. When a penguin dives beneath the waves, it carries with it a deep, deliberate silence. At that moment, it doesn't breathe again for many long minutes, sometimes more than 20. While most animals would struggle after seconds, penguins glide through the water as if time itself has slowed, moving with the kind of stillness that only nature's most patient creatures can master. Their secret lies in control. Before diving, a penguin fills its lungs, but it also relies on oxygen stored throughout its body, in blood rich with hemoglobin and muscles thick with myoglobin. Once submerged, its heartbeat slows dramatically, sometimes to a fraction of its normal pace. Blood flow is redirected away from the skin and stomach toward vital organs like the heart and brain. Everything unnecessary simply pauses. The result is a living rhythm designed for endurance. While descending into the dark, penguins don't waste a single movement. Each stroke of their flippers is measured, conserving every breath they took at the surface. They don't fight the water, they move with it, turning effort into grace. When oxygen finally runs low, they begin their slow ascent, guided by instinct and the faint shimmer of light above. As they break through the surface, they release a sharp exhale, a thin cloud of bubbles rising into the cold air, proof of the quiet strength below. It's easy to see speed or size as signs of power, but penguins teach a different lesson, that true strength is stillness, the kind that can slow a heartbeat, wait in silence, and trust the sea to return you to the surface when the time is right. For most creatures, diving underwater blurs the world into soft shapes and shifting light. But not for penguins. Their eyes are made for both realms, sharp and clear in the brightness above the waves, and just as precise in the dim blue world beneath. With a blink and a breath, they can move between the two without losing focus. It's like switching from one lens to another in an instant, each perfectly tuned for its world. This dual vision comes from a remarkable design. A penguin's cornea, the outer layer of the eye, is flatter than in most birds, reducing the distortion that water creates. Beneath it, powerful muscles adjust the lens itself, changing its curvature as the penguin dives. The moment light bends differently underwater, the eye compensates, sharpening the image so every darting fish or glimmering shadow comes into perfect view. Even their pupils play a role. In the bright Antarctic sun, the pupils shrink to a narrow slit, protecting the retina from glare off the ice. But once submerged, they widen fully, drinking in what little light remains in the deep. This shift happens almost instantly, faster than a human could ever notice, allowing penguins to hunt fluidly between sunlit surface and shadowed depth. For them, vision isn't just about seeing, it's about surviving. A fraction of a second can mean the difference between catching prey or becoming it. And yet there's something poetic in this gift, the ability to see both worlds clearly, above and below, light and dark, surface and sea. Before a penguin dives, it does something that feels completely backward. It breathes out, a soft exhale, a quiet release, and most of the air leaves its lungs. Then, with a small tilt forward, it slips beneath the surface, sinking effortlessly into the blue. It seems counterintuitive. Why let go of air before holding your breath? But for a penguin, that's the secret to diving deep. Air makes a body float. The more you carry, the harder it is to sink. For a bird whose ancestors were built to soar, that buoyancy could have been a problem. So penguins evolved a different kind of balance. Before diving, they purge much of the air from their lungs, reducing lift and allowing gravity and sleek design to do the rest. They descend smoothly, gracefully, no flailing, no struggle. Their oxygen doesn't come from the lungs, but from within. Their blood holds vast reserves of hemoglobin, and their muscles are packed with myoglobin, proteins that store oxygen directly inside the tissue. By exhaling first, they trade temporary air for lasting endurance, trusting their bodies to manage what's left efficiently. Their hearts slow, their blood flow changes, and they move with calm precision. When you watch them from above, they seem weightless, gliding downward in silence, surrounded by streams of bubbles from that single breath they released. It's a simple yet profound act, survival through surrender. For penguins, diving isn't about fighting the water. It's about yielding to it. By letting go of air, they gain freedom of motion and depth. It's a quiet reminder that sometimes the things we release can carry us farther than the things we hold on to. If you've ever watched a penguin underwater, you'll notice something extraordinary. They don't just paddle, they fly. Their wings slice through the water in smooth, looping arcs, spinning in a motion more like a propeller than a flap. Each stroke pulls them forward, lifting and turning them with effortless grace. It's flight rewritten for a heavier world. Unlike most birds that beat their wings up and down, penguins rotate theirs in a figure-8 pattern. This motion creates lift on both the upstroke and downstroke, keeping them gliding continuously without losing speed. Their flippers are rigid and strong, more like blades than wings, allowing them to cut through the dense water with precision. The result is movement so fluid that for a moment you might forget they can't fly at all. Water, 1,000 times denser than air, resists every motion, but penguins have learned to use that resistance as an ally. They twist their bodies to steer, roll in spirals to change direction, and bank through turns with the ease of fighter jets. Their wings aren't just tools of propulsion, they're instruments of artistry, each rotation a note in an elegant underwater dance. Scientists studying their motion through high-speed cameras have confirmed what the eye already knows. Penguins have mastered three-dimensional flight in liquid form. They soar through the sea as freely as any bird in the sky. In the end, penguins never truly lost their wings. They simply redefined what wings could do. Every dive is a reminder that flight isn't limited to air. It's about mastery of movement wherever you find it. Beneath the waves, penguins still fly, only now their sky is blue and filled with water. A penguin in the water moves like a thought, fast, precise, and seemingly effortless. But behind that smooth motion lies a choreography of small, perfect adjustments. While their powerful flippers drive them forward, it's their feet and tail that guide every twist and curve. Like the rudders of a ship, these parts steer them with the kind of precision that turns swimming into art. As a penguin glides through the sea, its webbed feet trail behind, angled just slightly. A gentle shift to one side or the other sends the body turning with surgical control. The tail, short but strong, acts as a stabilizer, tilting up or down to help them climb or dive through the water column. Together, these subtle movements form an invisible language of balance, written in currents and motion. This system gives penguins extraordinary agility. They can pivot mid-dive to chase a darting fish, weave through rocks, or spiral upward toward the surface in a rush of bubbles. Their coordination is so precise that they almost never collide within a group, even when hundreds swim together in a feeding frenzy. Every penguin knows its place in the fluid dance. What's striking is how naturally it all happens. No hesitation, no wasted motion. Each muscle seems to know what to do, responding to the water's resistance, like fingers adjusting to the weight of an instrument. The flippers provide the music, but the feet and tail conduct the rhythm. In a world where the difference between survival and failure can be a single misstep, penguins move with perfect unity. They don't fight the water. They listen to it, steer with it, and become part of its flow. Small masters of an endless sea. When penguins travel across long stretches of open water, they move with a rhythm that seems almost musical, dipping in and out of the surface in graceful arcing leaps. This motion, known as porpoising, looks playful, almost joyful, but it's actually a finely tuned survival strategy. By leaping from the water, penguins can breathe without losing their speed, turning travel into a seamless flow between sea and air. The name comes from porpoises, the sleek marine mammals whose movements inspired the comparison. For penguins, the mechanics are nearly identical. As they swim just below the surface, they build up speed, then push upward with their flippers, bursting through the water in a shining arc. During that brief flight, they exhale and inhale in a single motion before diving back down. Each leap gives them fresh oxygen, while momentum carries them forward, conserving energy that would otherwise be lost to drag. From above, a group of porpoising penguins looks like skipping stones, a line of black and white bodies glinting through sunlight and spray. Beneath the beauty is purpose. This method allows them to travel fast across vast distances, sometimes covering miles of sea between dives. It also makes them harder targets for predators lurking below. The unpredictability of their leaps confuses the sharp eyes of leopard seals. Porpoising captures something essential about penguins: efficiency shaped into elegance. They don't conquer the water, they move with it, in rhythm, in balance, in tune with every wave. In those shining leaps, you can see a perfect meeting of necessity and grace. Proof that even the hardest journeys can still look like joy. In the middle of the endless southern sea, where waves rise and fall like slow breathing, penguins sometimes stop, not to feed, not to swim, but to sleep. They drift on the surface like small boats, their bodies buoyed by air trapped in feathers and a layer of fat beneath the skin. Heads tuck gently onto their chests, eyes close, and the ocean rocks them into stillness. It's one of nature's quietest scenes, a moment of rest in a place that never truly sleeps. Floating sleep might sound risky, but penguins are built for it. Their waterproof feathers keep them dry, and their dense blubber holds in warmth even when the water bites with cold. They drift in small groups, their bodies rising and falling with the rhythm of the sea, half aware of their surroundings. Like many birds, penguins can sleep with one half of their brain resting while the other stays alert, a built-in safeguard against danger. A gentle movement or the sound of a wave is enough to wake them. These ocean naps can happen anywhere, between dives, during long journeys, or even at night beneath the faint southern lights. It rests in motion, a balance between vulnerability and trust. There's something deeply poetic in this habit. In the vast, indifferent ocean, penguins find a way to rest not by fighting the water, but by yielding to it. Each gentle drift is a reminder that peace doesn't always require stillness on land. Sometimes it comes as you float, head bowed, trusting the waves to cradle you safely until the next dive begins. When spring returns to the frozen coastlines of the southern hemisphere, so do the penguins, thousands of them gathering again on the same beaches where they were born. Amidst the crowded noise and flutter of feathers, something remarkable happens. Pairs find each other. After months apart, after storms, migrations, and miles of ocean, many penguin couples reunite, calling out across the chaos until a familiar voice answers back. Their bonds aren't fleeting. In several species, like Adelie, Gentoo, and chinstrap penguins, partners often stay together for years, returning to the same nesting site and the same mate season after season. It's not that they never part. The ocean keeps them apart for much of the year. But when the time comes to breed, they find their way back as if guided by memory and instinct intertwined. Each pair has a distinct duet, a vocal pattern only they recognize. When a male calls, his partner can pick his voice from thousands, their reunion confirmed by mutual bows and soft trills. They often reuse their old nesting spots, tidying pebbles, repairing small corners, and settling in side by side as if no time has passed at all. These reunions are quiet reminders of constancy in a world ruled by change. The Antarctic winds shift, ice melts and reforms, food comes and goes, yet some penguin pairs endure, choosing each other again and again, guided not by ceremony but by trust. It's easy to romanticize them, but perhaps that's fair. In a place where survival is harsh and fleeting, penguins still make time for loyalty, a simple, steadfast kind of love that returns faithfully with every new season of ice. In the chill of an Antarctic spring, when penguins gather on stony beaches to build their nests, love begins with something small, a single pebble. Among Adelie and Gentoo penguins, males search the ground with quiet focus, turning stones with their beaks as if inspecting jewels. When they find one smooth and round enough, they waddle over to a chosen female and place it gently at her feet. It's their version of a proposal, a gesture both tender and practical. If she accepts, she picks up the pebble and adds it to her nest, a shallow ring built to keep eggs safe from melting snow. Then the courtship continues. Another pebble, another offering. Sometimes lasting minutes, sometimes stretching into hours. Each stone is a small promise, a sign of patience, effort, and care. For some pairs, this ritual renews every year, reaffirming the bond between them. There's quiet poetry in this exchange. In a world ruled by wind and ice, where resources are scarce, a smooth stone becomes a treasure. Males often guard their chosen pebbles, or even steal from neighbors, while females seem to judge not just the pebble's quality, but the devotion behind it. It's less about possession and more about persistence. To watch them is to see affection expressed without words, love reduced to its simplest form, giving. A pebble, after all, can't feed or shelter, but it can build something together. And perhaps that's why the ritual endures. Because even in the harshest corners of the world, connection begins with an offering, a small act of care in a place where kindness itself feels like warmth. In the bustling colonies of Adelie penguins, where thousands of pairs gather to nest, real estate is all about pebbles. Each stone is precious. It lifts eggs above the melting ice, keeping them dry and safe from flooding. So when the beaches run short of smooth, flat stones, some penguins turn to less honest methods. They steal. An Adelie thief doesn't rush. It waits, pretending to preen or shuffle nearby until its neighbor looks away. Then, with a swift jab of its beak, it snatches a pebble and waddles off in triumph, chest puffed and head high. Sometimes the victim notices and gives chase, flapping and squawking in protest. Other times the theft goes unnoticed, one stone at a time, until a whole corner of a nest mysteriously disappears overnight. Scientists have watched these exchanges play out endlessly. Theft, retaliation, counter-theft, a miniature drama of strategy and timing. Some penguins even distract their neighbors with displays of affection or false nest building, sneaking a pebble while the other turns its back. It's not malice, just survival. In a place where snow and ice dominate, a small rock is worth its weight in gold. And yet there's humor in the scene. tiny tuxedoed figures locked in their eternal dance of stealing and rebuilding, like quarrelsome neighbors who can't stay angry for long. It reminds us that nature isn't always noble or cruel. It's practical. Among the Adelies, cleverness is currency. A well-timed theft can mean a better nest, a safer egg, a stronger chick. In the grand frozen theater of Antarctica, even the smallest act, a stolen pebble, becomes part of the story of persistence, adaptation, and the endless will to build something that lasts. In the heart of the Antarctic winter, when the sun disappears for months and the wind can freeze skin in seconds, thousands of emperor penguin fathers begin a vigil unlike any other in nature. Each one stands on the ice, a single egg balanced carefully on his feet, hidden beneath a fold of feathered skin called a brood pouch. For more than 60 days he will not eat, he will not hunt, he will simply wait. The mothers, having laid their eggs, have already returned to the sea to feed. The males stay behind, huddled together in great circles for warmth, their bodies forming a living wall against the storm. They take turns moving inward and outward, sharing the burden of the cold. The temperature around them can drop below -50 degrees Celsius, but the egg beneath each father's pouch remains near the warmth of his own heartbeat. That tiny life becomes his entire world. Through blizzards and darkness, they endure in silence, conserving every bit of energy, living off the fat stored in their bodies. Some lose nearly half their weight during the long fast. When the first dawn returns, the timing is perfect. The females come back, bellies full of food from the ocean, ready to feed the newly hatched chicks. The fathers, weary but steadfast, pass the fragile newborns into waiting care. There's something deeply moving about that stillness. 1,000 fathers standing motionless in a storm, carrying life on their feet. It's a portrait of strength that asks for nothing in return. In a land that shows no mercy, they embody the opposite: patience, tenderness, and the quiet endurance of love that survives even the coldest night. For more than 2 months, emperor penguin fathers stand in the endless Antarctic night, unmoving except for the slow rhythm of their breath. Beneath their feathers, a single egg rests on their feet, fragile, pale, and full of promise. They cannot hunt, cannot wander, cannot eat. The nearest food lies far across the frozen plain. So they wait, surviving entirely on what their bodies stored before winter began. By the time their chicks hatch, many will have lost nearly half their body weight. This is one of the longest fasts in the animal kingdom. The penguins' bodies shift into a careful, calculated state of endurance. Their heartbeats slow. Their metabolism drops. They burn fat in measured amounts, rationing energy the way a candle burns slower when the flame grows small. Each movement, even a turn against the wind, is deliberate. Nothing wasted. every gram of weight lost becomes a gift of warmth to the egg beneath their bellies. Outside, storms rage with winds strong enough to tear tents from the ground. Temperatures plunge far below freezing. And yet, within this frozen chaos, thousands of fathers stand together in silence, their dark forms swaying like shadows on ice. They lean into each other for warmth, forming a living circle of patience and resilience. When the mothers finally return from the sea, full of food for the chicks, the males have reached their limit. Their feathers hang loose, their steps are slow, but their mission is complete. The next generation has survived. It's a quiet kind of heroism, unseen and uncelebrated, the strength to endure hunger, cold, and exhaustion for something that cannot yet even see them. In the frozen heart of the world, fatherhood takes the shape of sacrifice, silent, steadfast, and absolute. The Antarctic colony stretches across the ice like a living city, tens of thousands of emperor penguins all calling at once. The air trembles with their cries, a chorus of voices echoing through the cold. To a human ear, it's an indistinguishable blur of sound. But to a penguin, every call is unique. Each bird carries a voice unlike any other, a signature tone, rhythm, and pattern that only one partner truly knows. After months apart, when the female returns from the sea with her belly full of food, she must find her mate and chick somewhere within this sea of black and white. There are no landmarks, no trails, no scents to follow, only sound. She begins to call, her voice rising and falling across the frozen air. Somewhere in that crowd, the male answers, weak but steadfast after his long vigil of fasting and care. What follows is one of nature's most beautiful reunions. Two voices weaving toward each other through noise and wind, guided purely by memory. Step by step, they close the distance, calling back and forth until finally they meet, beak to beak, chest to chest, warmth against warmth. No mistake, no confusion. In a crowd of thousands, they know each other instantly. Scientists studying their calls describe them as complex duets, two-part harmonies that carry emotion and recognition. The precision is astonishing. Even chicks, weeks old, can find their parents the same way, by listening for the one sound that feels like home. It's a reminder that love in the wild doesn't always need sight or touch. Sometimes it's carried on the wind, a familiar voice cutting through chaos, proof that even in the loneliest places, connection never truly fades. In the frozen cradle of Antarctica, when an emperor penguin chick first cracks open its shell, the world that greets it is merciless. Bitter winds, endless snow, and a sky that never warms. And yet the chick is ready. Even before it takes its first step, nature has dressed it in comfort. A layer of soft gray down, so fine and dense it feels like smoke against the fingers. This down traps air between its fibers, forming a living quilt that holds warmth close to the body. For a creature born into temperatures that can kill in minutes, this insulation is everything. The air caught within the down doesn't just warm, it breathes, circulating heat slowly, keeping the chick's tiny heart steady while the outside world howls. Scientists have found that this natural insulation rivals some of the best materials humans have ever designed. It's light, it's soft, and it's perfectly suited to survival. Even so, during the first days, chicks can't face the cold alone. They spend much of their time tucked into the brood pouch beneath an adult's belly, a feathered pocket heated by the adult's body warmth. When it's time to peek out, they huddle close to others, their soft bodies pressed together, sharing what little heat they make. Over the weeks, as they grow stronger, that baby down will shed to make way for juvenile feathers, waterproof, sleek, and ready for the sea. But for now, the chick is wrapped in softness, safe in the shelter of both biology and care. In a place carved from ice, the first thing life provides isn't toughness, it's warmth. A reminder that even in the harshest beginnings, comfort always comes first. Penguin chicks form what might be the most endearing sight on the ice. Vast gatherings called creches, where hundreds of downy youngsters stand shoulder to shoulder, waiting for their parents to return from the sea. From a distance, they look like a living blanket, a field of soft gray fluff swaying gently in the wind. Each chick chirps with its own tiny voice, calling for food or comfort, but together they create a chorus that fills the cold air with life. This daycare is nature's version of safety in numbers. When the adults leave to hunt, the chicks are far too small to defend themselves from the bitter cold or hungry skewers circling above. So they huddle in these communal groups, guarded by a few watchful adults who take turns keeping order and warding off danger. In the center of the creche, the air stays warm from shared body heat, a simple, instinctive cooperation that turns survival into teamwork. When parents return, they find their chick by sound alone. Amid hundreds of voices, one call always stands out, the cry that belongs to their own. They waddle into the crowd, feed their chick, then slip back to the sea, leaving the group's rhythm undisturbed. The creche is more than protection. It's penguin childhood itself, a time to grow feathers, learn to balance, and practice the art of patience. It's a miniature society built on trust, where no chick is ever truly alone. Even here, on the world's loneliest continent, tribes thrive. Each creche is proof that life, even in its smallest forms, survives best when it stands together. A quiet reminder that warmth multiplies when shared. Some penguin species swap parenting duties daily, passing the responsibility of care back and forth like clockwork. Others endure far longer shifts, 2, sometimes 3 weeks before they're reunited. The rhythm depends on the species, the season, and the sea itself. But in every case, it's a perfect choreography of trust. While one parent stays behind to guard the nest and keep the chick warm, the other disappears into the ocean's endless expanse to hunt. The feeding parent may travel dozens of kilometers, diving deep into cold waters to fill its belly with krill, fish, and squib. When it returns, it carries that meal inside its own body, ready to regurgitate it gently for its chick. The exchange happens quickly, a greeting, a call, a soft nudge, and then the roles reverse. The one who waited now becomes the traveler, and the cycle continues. For species like the gentoo penguin, these handoffs can happen every day, with precise timing that keeps the chick well fed and warm. Emperor penguins, by contrast, endure the longest separations, as males stand fasting for months while females feed at sea before returning to relieve them. Each pair's survival depends on cooperation and memory, knowing where to meet, when to return, and how to share the burden. There's something quietly admirable in this rhythm of partnership. No speeches, no promises, just repetition, precision, and faith that the other will return. In a world of extremes, penguins have perfected the art of teamwork. Each exchange, no matter how brief or long, becomes an act of devotion. Two lives moving in harmony, trading sacrifice for survival. The first sound a penguin chick learns isn't the crack of ice or the whistle of the wind. It's the voice of its parents. Before its eyes can even focus, that sound becomes its anchor, etched into memory. In a colony filled with thousands of identical birds, all calling and shuffling in the cold, each parent has a voice as distinct as a fingerprint. It's the melody of belonging, soft, rhythmic, and impossible to mistake. When chicks are small, they spend their earliest days tucked beneath the warmth of a parent's belly, listening. The calls that echo above them, trills, hums, or long vibrating notes, become familiar patterns of safety. Scientists call this vocal imprinting, a natural code written not in sight or smell, but in sound. Later, when the chicks join crowded creches of hundreds or even thousands of others, that recognition becomes their lifeline. After a parent returns from the sea with food, it must find its chick among a sea of voices. It calls, loud, clear, and deliberate, and the chick answers. In seconds, they locate each other through that sound alone, navigating the chaos of the colony with perfect precision. To a human listener, it's a storm of noise. To penguins, it's symphony and order combined. Even as chicks grow older, that sound remains, a faint echo of comfort carried into adulthood. It's the first language they ever learn, one made not of words, but of memory. In the harshness of Antarctica, survival begins with listening. The bond between parent and chick isn't written in sight or touch, but in the music of recognition. Proof that even in the loudest places on Earth, love still finds its voice. Penguins have a built-in heating system called countercurrent heat exchange, a quiet miracle running beneath their skin. In the bitter cold of Antarctica, where the temperature can plunge far below freezing, this mechanism allows penguins to keep warm without wasting energy. It works like a delicate conversation between the warm blood leaving the heart and the cold blood returning from the flippers and feet. Here's how it happens. Inside every flipper and leg, arteries and veins run side by side. Warm blood flows outward from the heart through the arteries, while the chilled blood from the extremities returns through the veins. As the two streams pass each other, heat is transferred from the outgoing to the incoming blood. The result is elegant efficiency. By the time the blood reaches the surface, it's cool enough to prevent major heat loss. And when it returns to the body's core, it's already warmed again. This balance allows penguins to stand for hours on ice or swim in freezing seas without freezing themselves. Their hearts don't have to race to stay warm. Their bodies don't need to shiver constantly. They thrive by conserving, by recycling warmth in a near-perfect loop of energy. You can see this precision in how calm they remain amid the cold. Their flippers may feel chilled to the touch, but deep inside their temperature stays steady. It's nature's version of insulation from within, a design honed over millions of years of survival. The more you learn about penguins, the clearer it becomes. Their genius isn't in strength or speed, but in harmony. Even their blood, silent, steady, and efficient, tells a story of balance, where nothing is wasted and life continues beautifully against the odds. Their feet don't freeze because blood vessels beneath the skin act like tiny living heaters, recycling warmth with astonishing precision. While a penguin stands for hours on ice that could burn human skin in seconds, its body remains steady, calm, and balanced, not through luck, but through elegant engineering. Inside each leg runs a network of arteries and veins, so closely paired they almost touch. Warm blood flowing from the heart travels downward through the arteries, while cold blood returning from the feet flows upward through the veins. As the two pass side by side, heat is exchanged between them. The outgoing blood cools slightly, and the returning blood warms before it ever reaches the body's core. This constant loop of shared warmth keeps the feet just above freezing, cold enough not to lose energy, yet warm enough to stay alive. Because of this system, penguins can stand on ice without discomfort, their bodies using only a fraction of the energy other animals would need to survive the same cold. The soles of their feet are also covered in tough, scaled skin that resists frostbite and grips the slippery surface below. What's extraordinary is how unconscious it all seems. No shivering, no struggle, just quiet endurance. The same mechanism that keeps their feet from freezing also works in their flippers and tails, circulating warmth where it's needed most. It's another reminder that nature's brilliance often hides in silence. In the harshest environment on Earth, penguins don't fight the cold, they adapt to it perfectly. Beneath every still stance on the ice, an invisible system hums with precision, turning blood into warmth and survival into art. Emperor penguins huddled in slow-moving circles, so that every bird from the outermost edge to the core gets its turn in the warmth. It looks like chaos at first, a dense, shifting wall of black and white feathers pressed together against the wind. But beneath that still surface is perfect order. The huddle moves almost imperceptibly, a living spiral of cooperation where no one is left behind. When Antarctic winter tightens its grip, temperatures drop below -50 degrees Celsius and winds scream across the ice. Alone, no penguin could endure it. Together, they create their own microclimate, bodies packed so closely that heat from thousands merges into one shared warmth. The temperature at the huddle's core can reach a comfortable 30 degrees Celsius, while the birds on the outside face the storm. Slowly, steadily, those outer penguins begin to shuffle inward, replaced by others ready to take their place in the cold. This constant, unspoken rotation keeps the entire group alive. There's no leader, no command, just instinct and rhythm. Each step forward is a small act of generosity. Each step back, a quiet sacrifice. Scientists studying these huddles call them thermal engines, but that mechanical term can't capture their beauty. What they've built is community in its purest form. If you could stand among them, you'd hear almost nothing, just the soft rustle of feathers and the low hum of bodies breathing together. In that silence lies a lesson older than language. Survival isn't a competition, it's a circle. Every penguin that steps aside for another is part of a pattern that turns freezing wind into shared life. In the coldest place on Earth, warmth isn't found alone. It's made together. The outer layer of a penguin huddle can face temperatures below -50 degrees Celsius, a level of cold so intense it can freeze human skin in moments. Yet, on the edge of this living fortress, emperor penguins stand motionless, their backs to the storm, taking the full force of the Antarctic wind so that others inside may stay warm. Feathers ruffle, snow gathers on their shoulders, and still they endure, waiting patiently for their turn to move inward. These outer sentinels are the guardians of the group, forming the shield that makes life possible for thousands behind them. Their feathers are densely layered, overlapping like armor plates. Beneath them lies a thick layer of insulating fat and a body temperature held steady by extraordinary control. Even so, the cold bites. The wind tears through the darkness with speeds over 150 kilometers per hour, and the air is so dry it steals moisture from every breath. Slowly the huddle shifts. The outer penguins take tiny steps, pressing inward as others move out to take their place. No one commands this rotation. It happens by instinct, a rhythm as old as the species itself. In that steady, wordless motion, fairness is born. Each bird endures the storm so that eventually warmth will return. From above, thermal cameras show what the eye cannot. The glowing red heart of the huddle, surrounded by a ring of blue, life against frozen emptiness. Those standing in that cold outer ring are heroes of quiet endurance, their sacrifice unseen but essential. In the most unforgiving environment on Earth, emperor penguins show that survival isn't just about strength, it's about balance. The will to face the storm today, knowing warmth will come tomorrow. Penguins can lower their metabolism during extreme cold, slipping into a state of quiet efficiency that lets them endure what would kill most creatures. When storms sweep across the Antarctic plains and food is far out of reach, their bodies respond not with panic, but with patience. Every heartbeat slows. Every breath becomes deliberate. The fire inside burns just enough to keep them alive, no more, no less. This remarkable ability allows them to survive weeks, even months, without eating. Their bodies enter a kind of controlled hibernation, not true sleep, but a careful conservation of life. Muscles stay supple, organs remain active, yet everything operates in slow motion. The energy they save in blubber and muscle is released gradually, stretched thin across endless cold nights. Even their blood flow changes, prioritizing the heart and brain while letting the outer body cool just enough to waste nothing. Scientists studying emperor penguins during the harshest months have recorded heart rates dropping to nearly half their normal rhythm. Oxygen consumption follows, reduced to match this new, slower pace. It's not weakness, it's precision, a biological act of endurance that turns scarcity into balance. When the cold finally breaks and food returns, the metabolism awakens again, steady and strong, ready to feed and rebuild. No damage done, no energy wasted. There's a kind of wisdom in this restraint, a lesson in survival through stillness. While other animals race or flee, penguins stand calmly in the storm, trusting the rhythm within to carry them through. In a place that demands everything, they survive by asking less of themselves, proving that endurance is not always movement. Sometimes it's the art of slowing down and waiting for warmth to return. Some penguins deliberately let snow gather on their backs, standing so still during storms that they become part of the landscape. Small, patient mounds of black and white, slowly turning to white alone. It seems like surrender to the cold, but it's not. The snow doesn't freeze them, it protects them. By allowing it to settle, penguins create a natural blanket that traps warmth beneath their feathers and shields them from the cutting wind. Their feathers are so densely packed and coated in oil that the snow never melts or soaks through. Instead, it forms a light crust that insulates rather than chills. The air trapped between the snow and their bodies helps conserve heat, keeping their temperature stable even as the world around them drops far below freezing. What looks like stillness is actually strategy, an understanding of the cold so deep that they use it as an ally. In these moments, a penguin becomes a portrait of calm endurance. While other creatures flee or burrow, it simply stands, trusting the wisdom of its own body and the patience of time. The storm passes, the snow slides away, and the penguin remains, dry, warm, unbroken. Scientists observing this behavior often describe it as counterintuitive, but perhaps it's simply natural logic. When resistance wastes energy, adaptation becomes the better choice. There's a quiet grace in how penguins treat the cold not as an enemy, but as part of their rhythm, a force to be worked with, not fought against. In a world of endless ice, they find warmth in the very thing that threatens it, proving that sometimes survival isn't about escaping the storm. It's about learning to rest beneath it. They can shiver at two speeds, one to stay warm, and another to wake their bodies for motion. It sounds simple, but it's one of the many small miracles hidden beneath the penguin's feathers. Most animals shiver only as a reflex to cold, a trembling effort to generate heat. Penguins, however, have mastered the art of using that same motion with purpose. Slow, controlled tremors for warmth, or rapid bursts to prime their muscles before a dive or a trek across the ice. In the stillness of an Antarctic storm, the first kind of shiver begins. Subtle, almost invisible. Tiny muscle contractions ripple beneath thick blubber, generating just enough heat to maintain a steady temperature without burning too much energy. It's the body's quiet hum, a rhythm of life under layers of feathers and frost. The second kind happens when movement is near. Before plunging into the ocean's freezing water, penguins shift into a faster tremor. This version isn't about warmth, it's about readiness. The vibrations push oxygen-rich blood into their muscles, preventing stiffness and preparing them for the explosive motion of diving or swimming. It's a natural warm-up, a way to move from stillness to speed without strain. What's remarkable is how instinctive it all is. No conscious decision, no visible struggle, just seamless adaptation tuned perfectly to need. The same mechanism that keeps them alive in the cold also powers their grace in the water. In that balance between the slow and the swift, the gentle and the fierce, penguins embody the quiet genius of survival. Their bodies understand what we often forget, that warmth and strength don't always come from movement alone, but from knowing exactly when to tremble and when to fly. Antarctic winds can exceed 200 kilometers per hour, strong enough to knock over a person or sweep snow into solid walls of ice. Yet penguins, small and seemingly fragile, stand unmoved, black and white silhouettes against a world of white chaos. Their secret lies not in strength, but in design. Each penguin plants itself with clawed, webbed feet that dig into the ice like anchors, gripping the frozen surface with astonishing precision. The claws curve downward, sharp enough to bite into the slick crust beneath them. Combined with low bodies and a balanced center of gravity, this grip allows them to face storms that would send most animals tumbling. Their posture, heads low, wings tucked tight, backs to the wind, turns them into natural wind breaks. Instead of resisting the gusts, they yield just enough to absorb them, like small feathered boulders shaped by endurance. When gusts howl across the plains and snow blasts sideways in blinding waves, colonies of penguins simply huddle closer, feet locked into place. Even chicks, barely feathered, mimic the stance of adults, their tiny claws finding purchase on ice sculpted by centuries of storms. It's instinct, learned not through thought, but through survival. Scientists observing emperor penguins during these tempests often describe the sight as both eerie and humbling. Thousands of birds standing utterly still while nature unleashes its full force. In a place where everything moves, wind, ice, even the sun, penguins remain the still point. Their stability doesn't come from power, but from perfect balance between resistance and surrender. Anchored by their claws, held steady by patience, they remind us that sometimes standing firm isn't about fighting the storm. It's about knowing exactly how to hold your ground. The heat trapped between a penguin's feathers can reach an astonishing 35 degrees Celsius. a temperature closer to a spring afternoon than to the frozen wasteland that surrounds them. Just beneath their sleek black and white surface, each bird carries its own pocket of summer. Air caught between layers of tightly packed feathers forms a barrier so efficient that even the harshest Antarctic winds can't pierce it. The secret lies in the structure of their plumage. Each feather is short, stiff, and slightly curved, overlapping like tiles on a roof. Between them sit countless tiny pockets of air, invisible insulation that penguins maintain with daily care. Every few hours they preen meticulously, spreading oil from a gland near their tail to waterproof the outer layer. This ensures the air beneath remains trapped, warm, and dry. It's a living thermal blanket, lightweight yet powerful, turning each penguin into its own little furnace. Scientists measuring the temperature close to their skin have found something extraordinary. While the air outside can drop below -40 degrees Celsius, the layer trapped between the feathers stays warm enough to melt snow that touches it. When a penguin stands still, a faint shimmer of warmth rises around it, though the bird itself remains perfectly calm, its body quietly defeating the cold through design rather than effort. It's an image of resilience that doesn't roar or fight back. Warmth hidden, self-contained, silent. Penguins thrive not by conquering their environment, but by mastering the small spaces within it. Even in a world of ice, they carry their own summer close to the skin, proof that survival isn't always about escaping the cold. Sometimes it's about learning how to keep the warmth alive inside you. Penguins' dark feathers help absorb sunlight like natural solar panels, turning each bird into a small, living collector of warmth. Under the piercing Antarctic sun, their black backs drink in the light, converting it into heat that radiates through their bodies. In a place where the air can stay below freezing even on bright days, this simple advantage makes all the difference between shivering and surviving. The contrast of their coloring, black above, white below, is more than elegance. It's balance. The dark plumage gathers heat from the sun's rays, especially when penguins face away from the wind and tilt slightly to expose their backs. Meanwhile, their white bellies reflect sunlight from the surface of the snow and sea, preventing overheating when the day grows long and bright. It's a design that works in both extremes, warming yet self-regulating, a harmony of color and function perfected by evolution. Scientists studying emperor penguins have found that their dark feathers can reach temperatures several degrees warmer than the surrounding air, helping them conserve precious body heat without expending energy. It's passive warmth, effortless, constant, and silent. If you watch a colony under the low southern sun, you might notice them standing still for long stretches, backs turned toward the light. To us, it looks like rest. To them, it's strategy. A quiet recharge before the next dive, the next storm, the next long night. In a world made of ice, even color has purpose. Black becomes not just a shade, but a shield, proof that beauty and survival often share the same feather. Penguins don't fight the cold, they outthink it, one ray of sunlight at a time. Penguins see ultraviolet light, a color invisible to us but radiant to them. a hidden wavelength that turns the underwater world into something luminous and alive. Beneath the dim, shifting blues of the Southern Ocean, this gift lets them spot what human eyes would miss. Many fish and squid shimmer faintly under ultraviolet light, their scales reflecting patterns that stand out shortly against the dark. To a penguin, these flickers become a living constellation, guiding it through the depths in pursuit of its next meal. Their eyes are built for this secret light. Special photoreceptor cells in the retina allow penguins to detect UV wavelengths, expanding their visual range beyond what most birds and all mammals can see. Combined with their exceptional underwater focus and rapid pupil adjustment, this vision gives them a hunter's precision in near darkness. When a penguin dives hundreds of meters below the surface, sunlight fades almost completely. Yet even there, faint ultraviolet reflections ripple across fish scales like flashes of silver lightning. A twist of the head, a flick of the flipper, and the penguin moves toward the glimmer with perfect aim. In those depths, where our world turns black, theirs still shimmers with color. Scientists studying penguin vision believe this ability also helps them navigate at the surface, where sunlight scatters differently across the sea ice. UV sensitivity sharpens contrast, revealing edges and textures invisible to our eyes. It's humbling to realize that while we see a world of blues and whites, penguins see a realm laced with secret light, a world where the ocean itself glows faintly with opportunity. In their eyes, the Antarctic isn't colorless at all. It's alive with ultraviolet fire. Their tongues have backward-facing spines, tiny hooked ridges that turn a penguin's mouth into a perfect trap for slippery prey. Beneath the surface of the ocean, where fish twist and flash in constant motion, this adaptation gives penguins the grip they need to feed efficiently. Each spine curves toward the throat, ensuring that once a fish is caught, it can move in only one direction, inward. These spines aren't teeth, but stiff, keratinized structures, the same tough material found in our nails and hair. When a penguin lunges at a darting fish, its beak snaps shut with astonishing precision. The rough, barbed tongue then presses the prey against the serrated edges of the beak, anchoring it firmly as the penguin swallows. There is no chewing, no struggle, just smooth, practiced motion, perfected by millions of years of evolution. This system is essential in the fast-paced world beneath the ice. Penguins hunt in bursts of speed, sometimes catching several fish in a single dive. Each capture happens in seconds, and the tongue's backward spines make sure nothing slips away. Even the smallest squid, slick with seawater, is held tight as the penguin turns to hunt again. Seen up close, those spines might look fierce, a mouth lined with tiny barbs. But they're not weapons. They're tools of precision, built for one purpose: survival in the deep. Nature's brilliance often hides in the smallest details. What looks like a simple tongue is actually an instrument of engineering, flexible, specialized, and efficient. For penguins, every part of the body, from flipper to feather to tongue, tells the same quiet truth. Life thrives not through strength alone, but through perfect adaptation to the world it inhabits. They swallow stones to aid digestion and adjust buoyancy. An odd habit at first glance, but one that reveals just how cleverly penguins are attuned to their world. Scattered along icy shorelines, they pick up smooth pebbles and gulp them down whole, adding tiny weights to their stomachs. These stones serve two purposes. Inside, they help grind food. Outside, they help balance life between sea and air. For digestion, the logic is simple. Penguins don't chew. Their meals, fish, squid, krill, go down whole, shells and all. In the muscular part of the stomach, those swallowed stones act like millstones, helping crush and churn the food until it's easier to digest. It's a system shared with some other birds, like chickens and ostriches, but penguins take it a step further. The added weight also gives them control underwater. By increasing their density, the stones reduce buoyancy, allowing penguins to dive deeper and stay submerged longer without fighting to stay down. When hunting at great depths, the difference of a few grams can mean smoother motion, less energy spent, and longer time beneath the surface. Some scientists even believe penguins may swallow or regurgitate stone seasonally, adjusting their balance like a pilot trimming a vessel before flight. To the eye, it's a small, almost meaningless act, a penguin picking up a pebble from the shore. Yet within that gesture lies an understanding of both land and sea, a fine balance between hunger and motion, surface and depth. In a world of ice and current, even a simple stone becomes a tool of survival. Penguins remind us that wisdom in nature rarely roars. Sometimes it's as quiet as a pebble swallowed by instinct and shaped by time. Penguins prefer different prey by species. Krill for adelie, gentoo for fish, squid for ping, each one a specialist within its frozen world. Though they share the same ocean, their diets divide it neatly, like invisible territories drawn beneath the waves. Every species hunts according to its body, its beak, and the waters it calls home. Adelie penguins, small and quick, thrive where krill swarm in dense red clouds near the ice edge. Their sharp, narrow bills are perfect for snatching these tiny crustaceans by the mouthful, painting their bellies pink from the feast. Gentoo penguins, stronger swimmers with deeper diving ability, chase after fish, slippery, fast-moving prey that demands both agility and endurance. Their diet gives them higher energy, fueling the long foraging trips they make each day. Kin penguins, taller and more regal in posture, dive even deeper into the open sea, where schools of lanternfish and small squid flicker in the dark. Their long, curved peaks are built for grasping soft-bodied prey that glows faintly in the blue-black depths. To them, the deep ocean is a dining hall of drifting light. This separation isn't just preference, it's survival by design. By focusing on different foods, each species avoids direct competition, allowing colonies to thrive side by side on the same stretch of coast. The result is an elegant equilibrium, a living rhythm that keeps the Antarctic ecosystem balanced and alive. It's easy to think of penguins as one collective, all black, white, and charmingly alike. But beneath that shared silhouette lie subtle specializations, each tuned perfectly to a different part of the sea. Even in sameness, nature finds variety, and in that variety, harmony endures. They locate prey using pressure-sensitive nerves in their beaks, a hidden sensory system that turns every dive into an act of intuition as much as vision. Beneath the ice, where light fades to blue and then to black, penguins hunt by feeling the water itself. Tiny changes in pressure ripple outward whenever a fish flicks its tail or a squid moves through the dark. Those vibrations are faint, too subtle for sight or sound, but a penguin's beak feels them instantly. Along the upper and lower edges of the beak lie clusters of specialized nerve endings known as mechanoreceptors. These tiny sensors detect shifts in water pressure and movement, allowing the penguin to map its surroundings in real time. A slight tremor in the current becomes direction, speed, and distance, a living sonar written in touch. For deep-diving species like emperors and king penguins, this adaptation is essential. They descend hundreds of meters below the surface, where no light reaches, relying entirely on these nerve signals to hunt in near total darkness. Each subtle pulse through the water tells them where to turn, when to strike, and when to glide silently until the next flicker of life passes close. To human eyes, their dives seem blind, but to a penguin, the ocean is alive with invisible motion. They read it through sensation, not sight, a quiet conversation between predator and sea. This ability reveals something profound about nature's design. Not all awareness comes from what's visible. Penguins remind us that survival often depends on sensitivity, the art of noticing the smallest tremor, the softest movement, the faintest change in the water's rhythm, and trusting what can't be seen. Penguins often hunt in coordinated groups, circling schools of fish with a precision that looks almost choreographed. Beneath the surface, dozens of sleek bodies move as one, gliding, turning, and darting in a seamless rhythm. The goal isn't chaos, but cooperation, to drive the scattered fish into a dense, swirling mass where escape becomes impossible. Each penguin knows its role without command or signal. Some dive deeper to block the lower escape routes, while others swim in widening arcs to tighten the circle from above. When the fish panic and surge upward, the group strikes, one after another, each bird snatching its share in a storm of bubbles and silver flashes. What looks like instinct is, in truth, something closer to teamwork. This hunting strategy appears across several species, especially gentoos and adelies, who forage together in the open sea. Working as a unit allows them to capture far more food than they could alone, and to waste less energy chasing fast-moving prey. Scientists studying their dives through underwater cameras have recorded perfect synchronization, even pauses and turns happening within milliseconds of each other. Above the surface, the scene tells another story. Seabirds gather overhead, waiting to dive on leftovers, while penguins below form living spirals of movement, a dance of survival repeated countless times through the ages. No leader, no plan, yet perfect coordination. In that effortless unity lies a quiet beauty, strength through togetherness, not dominance. Penguins teach a simple truth the ocean itself seems to understand, that harmony, not haste, feeds the many. In the wild balance between hunger and cooperation, they turn the act of feeding into a moment of shared grace. When feeding chicks, penguin parents regurgitate pre-digested meals warmed in their bellies, a gesture that may sound unpleasant to us, but within the colony, it's pure tenderness. After long, exhausting foraging trips, the returning parent calls out across the ice, searching for the voice that matches its own. Amid hundreds or thousands of chicks, one small call answers, clear and insistent. They find each other beak to beak, guided by memory and instinct. The meal begins as an act of care. The parent caught it days ago. Fish, squid, or krill, stored deep in a special part of the stomach known as the crop. There, the food is gently warmed and softened, held safe from spoilage by natural enzymes and body heat. When the chick begs with a gentle peck, the parent tilts its head, and the food rises, a warm, nutrient-rich meal perfectly suited to the chick's small body. For emperor penguins, this act can mean the difference between life and death. During the mother's absence, a fasting father may keep a single drop of this precious penguin milk, a thick, milky secretion produced in his crop, to sustain his chick until she returns. It's not much, but it's enough to keep hope alive through the coldest weeks. Watching them feed is like seeing a quiet ritual pass down through time. Simple, patient, and full of meaning. There's no noise, no chaos, just gentle exchange and trust. In a land defined by ice and hunger, love finds its own language. Not through the warmth of touch, but through the offering of sustenance. To feed another with what you've kept within yourself, that is devotion, spoken in the oldest way life knows. Emperor penguins feed mostly at night, chasing the faint blue-green flicker of bioluminescent life beneath the ice. In the deep Antarctic Sea, sunlight fades quickly, gone within meters. But down below, other lights awaken, drifting krill that sparkle like dust, lanternfish that pulse in soft rhythm, squid that glow as they twist through the dark. For penguins, these living sparks are both guide and prey, drawing them into the depths with promise. Their eyes, adapted for darkness, widen to catch every shimmer. Unlike ours, they can focus in near black water, distinguishing the faintest movements of light against the void. In that silent, starlit sea, penguins move with eerie precision, gliding through constellations of bioluminescence as if flying through a galaxy beneath the ice. Night feeding offers more than vision's advantage. It also means safety. Many predators hunt by daylight, so the darkness becomes a quiet refuge. Emperor penguins take full advantage of this, descending hundreds of meters into the black, following the glow until it fades, then rising again to breathe and dive once more. A single night's hunt may take them dozens of times beneath the surface. To imagine them there, silent shadows chasing sparks, is to glimpse the ocean's secret life. Light doesn't end with the sun. It continues, soft and biological, pulsing from the smallest beings in the sea. For emperor penguins, it's not just food they follow, it's light itself. In a world of darkness and cold, they remind us that survival often depends on finding beauty in the faintest glimmers and trusting that even the smallest light can lead the way. Some penguins eat snow to stay hydrated between dives, a simple act that speaks volumes about survival in a world where liquid water barely exists. On the Antarctic ice, fresh water is trapped in frozen form for most of the year, and the surrounding ocean is far too salty to drink. So, between their long hunts and endless marches across the ice, penguins pause, tilt their heads, and scoop small mouthfuls of snow, letting it melt slowly against their tongues. To us, it might seem trivial, a bird nibbling at frost, but for penguins, it's hydration on the go. The melted snow replaces water lost through breathing, swimming, and feeding in the cold, dry air. It also helps cool their bodies after long exertions, keeping their internal temperature balanced before the next dive. For species like adelies and emperors, who may travel miles between sea and colony, this small habit becomes an elegant survival tool. Their bodies, already remarkable, help make the process efficient. Special glands near the eyes filter excess salt from their blood, a necessary adaptation for creatures that spend so much time in seawater. But even with that system, snow provides a clean, salt-free refreshment that supports their delicate balance. Watching them do it, plucking at snow with their beaks in quiet rhythm, reveals how even the smallest gestures can mean endurance. They don't need abundance. They adapt to scarcity, finding what's necessary in the simplest form. In the vast silence of Antarctica, survival often looks humble. A bird standing in the wind, eating snowflake after snowflake. But in that moment lies a truth as profound as any, that life endures not by force, but by finding nourishment in what the world freely gives. During molting, penguins fast entirely, living for weeks on nothing but the energy stored within their bodies. Each year, their old feathers loosen and fall away, replaced by new ones that will keep them waterproof and warm through another season of sea and storm. But until the process is complete, they cannot swim. Their half-shed coats trap water, leaving them too heavy and cold to survive in the ocean. So they wait. For nearly 3 to 4 weeks, the birds gather along the coast or near their colonies, standing quietly while tufts of old plumage drift away like snow. Their appearance changes dramatically, ragged, patchy, almost comical. But beneath the mess, their bodies are working tirelessly. New feathers push through the skin in dense layers, forming the sleek, tight armor that will serve them for the next year. It's an expensive transformation, one that demands rest and reserves. Before molting begins, penguins gorge themselves at sea, building thick layers of fat that act as both insulation and energy supply. Over the fasting period, they can lose a third of their body weight. Some species grow more sedentary, conserving energy, Others cluster in sheltered areas, waiting for the wind to carry away the old. When the new coat finally settles, dark, glossy, perfect, they return to the sea renewed. The first dive after molting is like rebirth. The water beads and slides off their feathers effortlessly again, their speed restored, their strength replenished. Molting may look like stillness, but it's a season of quiet transformation. The price of staying alive in a world that never stops changing. Even in hunger, penguins remind us that renewal sometimes requires pause, the courage to stop, endure, and begin again. Not all penguins live in Antarctica. In fact, most of them don't. Out of the 18 known species, only a few ever touch the icy southern continent. The rest make their homes in gentler climates, scattered across the coasts of South America, New Zealand, Africa, and even the Galapagos Islands, where the equatorial sun burns hot and the air never freezes. The image of the penguin as a snow-dwelling bird tells only part of their story. In the Galapagos, penguins fish in waters warmed by tropical currents, darting through blue shallows where lava rocks shimmer beneath the surface. African penguins nest on sandy beaches along the Cape, where the sun glows fierce and shade becomes survival. They dig burrows, hide under rocks, and use the cool wind from the Atlantic to keep from overheating. In South America, Magellanic penguins rest in scrubby grasslands and coastal caves, their feathers ruffled by dry heat instead of snow. Each species has its own rhythm, its own way of adapting to the world it was given. Their feathers are the same, dense and waterproof, but their lives unfold under sunlight instead of storm clouds. They still waddle, still dive, still sing to their mates, but their backdrop is more sand than ice. It's a quiet reminder that nature rarely fits neatly into our expectations. Penguins are not creatures of one world, but of many. Proof that endurance wears many faces. They belong not only to Antarctica's frozen silence, but also to the warm surf of distant shores. Whether under snow or sun, they thrive, finding balance between heat and cold, isolation and abundance. A living symbol of how life adapts beautifully, even far from where we expect it to. Galapagos penguins live on the equator, yet their lives are shaped by cold. The islands they call home bask in tropical sunlight, surrounded by blue seas and volcanic stone. But beneath that warmth flows a lifeline, the Humboldt Current. Rising from the depths of the South Pacific, it carries icy water from Antarctica northward, curling around the Galapagos and cooling the islands just enough for penguins to survive. Without it, the heat alone would end them. These are the smallest of all penguins and the rarest, living on the razor's edge between two worlds, the fire of the equator and the chill of the deep sea. Their black feathers soak the morning sun when it's cool, but as temperatures rise, they pant like dogs, hold their flippers away from their bodies, and retreat to shaded crevices of lava rock. At noon, when the light grows harsh, they rest. When evening comes, they slip into the ocean to feed, carried by currents that keep the water crisp and rich with plankton and fish. Their survival depends entirely on that rhythm, the dance between warm air and cold sea. The Humboldt and Cromwell currents bring nutrients that feed the entire ecosystem, from fish to seals to these small, tenacious birds. In a way, the penguins are living proof that even the equator has traces of Antarctica flowing through it. To see them, standing in sunlight, surrounded by cactus and sand, feels almost impossible. And yet, there they are, symbols of balance, thriving at the meeting point of extremes. In a world that divides easily between hot and cold, the Galapagos penguin lives in the middle, a creature born of paradox, surviving not through comfort, but through the beautiful tension between opposites. Penguins are found naturally only in the southern hemisphere, creatures of southern light, southern oceans, and southern skies. From the icy shelves of Antarctica to the beaches of South Africa, the coasts of Chile, and the volcanic shores of the Galapagos, every species belongs to the half of the world where the sun arcs low and the sea breathes cold. Not a single wild penguin calls the North its home. It's a common misunderstanding. Stories and cartoons often place them alongside polar bears, both imagined together at opposite ends of the earth. But penguins and polar bears will never meet. The bears roam the Arctic, while penguins belong entirely to the Antarctic and the waters that fan outward from it. Evolution kept them apart, shaping penguins in isolation where cold currents dominate and predators differ. Across their southern range, these birds have adapted to astonishing variety. Emperor penguins endure the deep freeze of the South Pole, while African penguins sun themselves on warm beaches. Australian and New Zealand species thrive among rocky shores and temperate surf. What unites them is not the land they stand on, but the ocean, the cold, nutrient-rich water that sustains their every dive. Their world is one of southward pull, of icebergs, kelp forests, and southern stars reflected in restless seas. To them, the southern hemisphere isn't a boundary, it's a home written into instinct and tide. Perhaps that's the quiet poetry of the penguin. It belongs wholly to one half of the earth, and yet its presence feels universal. The North may have its bears, its wolves, its auroras, but the South has penguins, steadfast and enduring, guardians of the cold oceans that cradled the world's balance. Fossil evidence shows penguins once lived as far north as Norway. A startling reminder that these birds, now symbols of the frozen South, once walked shores far from ice. Millions of years ago, when the Earth's climate was warmer and the oceans teemed with life, ancient penguins swam through northern seas, diving in waters that would one day freeze solid. Their bones, buried beneath layers of stone and time, tell a story of migration, adaptation, and the slow turning of the planet's climate wheel. The fossils found in regions like Norway and Denmark suggest that early penguin relatives, descendants of flightless seabirds that emerged shortly after the age of dinosaurs, once thrived in temperate zones across the globe. The Earth was different then. Antarctica was not yet sealed under ice, and ocean currents flowed freely between poles, carrying warmth and nutrients to every coast. For penguins, it was a world of opportunity. But as the continents drifted and climates cooled, the poles began to freeze. Warm water corridors closed, and the ancient northern penguins vanished, replaced by species that adapted to the growing cold in the south. What remains of their presence is fossilized proof that the penguin lineage once stretched nearly pole to pole, a record of life that refused to be confined by geography. It's easy to think of penguins as creatures bound forever to Antarctica, but their story runs deeper, through shifting tides, lost continents, and changing skies. They are travelers in time as much as in space. The stones of Norway whisper their history quietly, that even those who seem rooted in one world were once citizens of another, a reminder that life always moves, reshaping itself with the rhythm of the earth. The smallest penguin on Earth, the little blue penguin, lives along the coasts of New Zealand and southern Australia, a tiny, endearing version of its larger Antarctic cousins. Standing just over 30 centimeters tall, it weighs barely a kilogram, small enough to fit easily in a human's arms. Yet what it lacks in size, it more than makes up for in spirit. With feathers tinted a soft indigo sheen, it seems to carry the color of the sea upon its back, glowing faintly under the moonlight. Unlike the emperors or adeles that march across endless ice, little blue penguins make their homes near gentle surf and rocky coves. They nest in burrows dug into sandy hillsides or beneath seaside vegetation, returning faithfully each evening from fishing trips to feed their chicks and rest. Locals in coastal towns often see them waddling up the shore after dusk, a nightly pilgrimage of tiny silhouettes moving toward their nests, guided by instinct and starlight. They feed mostly on small fish and squid, diving with surprising agility despite their miniature size. Their dives are short but efficient, perfectly suited to the shallow coastal waters they call home. In places like Phillip Island, entire colonies emerge together at sunset, a sight so tender that locals call it the Penguin Parade. These little birds may never face the brutal cold of Antarctica, but they live with the same quiet determination, balancing life between sea and land, endurance and vulnerability. In their size lies a kind of poetry, proof that strength is not always measured in scale or power. The little blue penguin reminds us that even the smallest heart can carry the vastness of the ocean within it, steady, brave, and beautifully blue. Penguins nest in burrows, cliffs, caves, or even under shrubs, homes shaped as much by landscape as by instinct. Across their wide southern range, each species finds a different way to build a cradle for new life. To see their colonies is to see creativity at work. The same black and white birds adapting endlessly to every kind of coast. Little blue penguins of New Zealand dig deep burrows in sandy soil, tunneling into hillsides or beneath tufts of grass. There, hidden from sun and wind, they raise their chicks in the dim quiet of Earth. Magellanic penguins of South America do the same, shaping winding underground chambers that stay cool through the heat of summer. African penguins facing scorching temperatures nest beneath shrubs or rocky ledges, using shade as their shield. And along the wind-swept islands of the sub-Antarctic, rockhoppers wedge their nests between jagged cliffs, where spray from the waves rises like mist below. For each species, the nest is both fortress and refuge, a place of warmth in harshness, of patience in motion. Some parents gather pebbles to line their hollows. Others drag seaweed or feathers for softness. Each returns to the same nesting site year after year, often to the same partner, rebuilding a home that time and tide have worn away. From burrows dug in sand to nests perched above the sea, penguins show that home isn't one shape or place. It's the instinct to protect, to build, to start again. In a world that never stops shifting, where glaciers melt, waves erode, and storms reshape the land, penguins remind us of a quiet truth. No matter how harsh the world becomes, life always finds a corner to call its own. Rockhopper penguins climb steep cliffs, sometimes more than 100 meters high, to reach the nesting grounds that wait above the roaring sea. Their name isn't poetic exaggeration, it's a perfect description. These small, fiery-eyed birds truly hop, leaping from rock to rock with astonishing precision, each jump bringing them closer to home. Their breeding colonies often sit atop rugged coasts where waves crash endlessly below. To reach them, rockhoppers must scale slippery boulders, narrow ledges, and jagged slopes carved by centuries of wind and surf. Where most penguins slide across ice, these ones climb, using their strong legs, hooked claws, and sturdy tails for balance. They move in bursts of determination, sometimes pausing mid-ascent, as if catching their breath before another bold jump. Watching them is both humbling and strangely uplifting. The cliffs seem impossible, yet hundreds of tiny forms persist, hopping and scrambling in unison, their yellow crests fluttering like sparks against the gray stone. They don't hesitate or retreat. They just keep moving upward, step by step, driven by instinct and purpose. The nests that await them are simple, shallow scrapes lined with grass and pebbles, but to the penguins they're worth every climb. There, in safety above the tide, they raise their chicks and call to their mates, the wind carrying their cries out to sea. In the harsh geography of their world, the rockhoppers embody resilience in its purest form. They don't choose the easy path, they conquer the one they were given. Their climb is a quiet metaphor for life itself. Progress made in small, steady leaps, guided not by sight or certainty, but by the simple, enduring will to reach the top. Some colonies have been nesting in the same locations for thousands of years, places so steeped in history that the ground itself remembers them. Beneath the ice and rock, layers of guano, eggshell fragments, and bones form quiet archives of generations long gone. Every season, new penguins return to the same cliffs, the same beaches, the same wind-swept plains, guided by instincts older than their species' memory. Scientists studying ancient nesting sites in Antarctica and subantarctic islands have found evidence stretching back millennia. In some colonies, sediments reveal unbroken occupation for over 5,000 years, countless cycles of arrival, pairing, hatching, and departure, repeated with near religious precision. The penguin's fidelity to place is extraordinary. No matter how far they roam, they return home, not just to a region, but often to the very patch of ground their ancestors used. This loyalty isn't sentimental, it's strategic. The same sites that worked for their predecessors offer the best combination of safety, shelter, and access to feeding waters. Through storms, ice ages, and shifting tides, these places have proven themselves worthy. The penguins don't need to reinvent survival, they simply continue it. Standing in such a colony is like standing within time itself. Thousands of birds call, shuffle, and tend their nests, unaware that beneath their feet lie centuries of their own lineage. The land and the life upon it are inseparable, an ongoing conversation between earth and instinct. In a world that changes faster than ever, these colonies are reminders of continuity. While glaciers recede and oceans warm, the penguins still return, living testaments to endurance and the quiet wisdom of returning home to where life has always begun. Penguin guano can stain entire coastlines pink, a strange and vivid signature left behind by millions of krill-colored meals. The sight is striking from above. Pale ice tinged with rose, rocky shores washed in soft blush tones, and streaks of color stretching far across the snow. It's not paint nor algae, but the mark of penguin life, the pigment of the sea, carried through their bodies and returned to the world. Krill, the tiny crustaceans that make up much of a penguin's diet, are rich in carotenoids, the same reddish compounds found in shrimp and flamingos. When penguins digest these creatures, traces of that pigment remain. Over time, as colonies feed, nest, and live in close quarters, their droppings accumulate, tinting the landscape with a hue that's both unexpected and oddly beautiful. To scientists, these pink stains are more than color. They're data. Satellite images can detect the guano fields from space, helping researchers map penguin colonies across Antarctica's vast, otherwise featureless terrain. From orbit, each patch of pink marks a thriving community, a sign of life in one of Earth's most barren places. And beneath the color lies a deeper contribution. Guano, rich in nitrogen and phosphorus, nourishes the fragile polar ecosystem. It fertilizes moss, algae, and microorganisms that in turn sustain insects and other life forms, the beginning of a quiet chain reaction that connects bird to soil, sea to sky. It's a strange kind of poetry. What's discarded becomes life again. Even the waste of a penguin helps the Antarctic breathe. In a place where survival seems so stark, pink-stained snow is a gentle reminder that nothing in nature is ever truly wasted, and every act of living leaves its color on the world. Their colonies are visible from space, not because of the penguins themselves, but because of the colorful footprints they leave behind. From orbit, Antarctica looks like a canvas of white and shadow, vast and untouched, until you notice the faint smudges of pink and brown spreading along the coast. Those stains are guano, penguin droppings, marking the places where tens of thousands of birds gather year after year. What appears as a delicate blush against the ice is in truth a living city. Scientists first noticed these color contrasts in satellite images decades ago. The guano's pigment, often tinted by krill-rich diets, creates distinct patches that stand out against the pale landscape. Each one tells a story, not just of where penguins are, but how many there might be. By studying these markings, researchers can estimate colony size, track migration patterns, and even discover new populations hidden in remote or inaccessible regions. Some of these satellite discoveries have revealed entire colonies no human had ever seen before. Communities thriving quietly in the planet's harshest environment, their presence betrayed only by the soft, pink shadows they leave behind. There's something humbling about that image. Creatures no taller than a child, living together in such numbers and constancy that their existence becomes visible from hundreds of kilometers above the earth. It's a reminder that scale and significance aren't the same, that even small lives, repeated and sustained over generations, can leave marks large enough to touch the edges of space. From the coldest deserts on Earth, penguins announce their presence not with sound, but with color, a silent signature on the ice that says, "We are here, and we endure." Penguins use a form of signature call, a vocal fingerprint as distinct as a human voice. In colonies where tens of thousands gather shoulder to shoulder, their world hums with noise, a vast echoing chorus of squawks, trills, and cries. Yet within that chaos, each penguin can find the one voice it seeks. A chick, hungry and shivering, can locate its parent among thousands. A mate returning from weeks at sea can hear its partner's call through the storm. Each call carries subtle variations in pitch, rhythm, and tone that act like an identity code. Scientists have recorded and analyzed these vocalizations, discovering that no two are exactly alike. The pattern is so precise that penguins respond only to the unique sound of their mate or chick, ignoring others that seem nearly identical to human ears. It's a symphony of recognition, a natural technology perfected long before humans invented speech or sound recording. To test this, researchers have played recordings in crowded colonies. The result is astonishing. The targeted penguin will respond immediately, lifting its head, calling back, and beginning the search. No other bird reacts. The voice is enough. Proof that, in their own way, penguins remember sound as we remember faces. In the cold, Where sight is often limited by snow and wind, sound becomes the language of love, memory, and reunion. A call through the storm can mean everything. Reassurance that someone is still out there, still listening, still coming home. Among the noise of 1,000 lives, the power to know one voice stands as something deeply familiar, a reminder that recognition in any species is not just about sound, but about belonging. They can distinguish familiar humans after repeated exposure, a surprising glimpse into the quiet intelligence hidden behind a penguin's calm stare. In research stations, rescue centers, and long-term study sites, observers have noticed something remarkable. Penguins begin to recognize the people who return to them day after day. They don't simply tolerate human presence. They respond differently to individuals they've learned to trust. Caretakers often describe how certain penguins approach them freely, while shying away from strangers wearing the same clothes or moving in the same way. In some cases, the birds emit softer calls, tilt their heads, or stand relaxed when greeted by someone they know. Their recognition seems rooted in subtle cues, the rhythm of footsteps, the tone of a voice, the pattern of motion, details that their sharp senses capture and hold in memory. Researchers believe this behavior comes from the same social intelligence penguins use within their colonies. They already recognize mates and chicks by voice. Extending that perception to humans isn't so far a leap. Over time, the brain learns what is safe, what is familiar, what can be trusted. In Antarctica, scientists working near emperor penguin colonies have reported that the birds grow less wary after weeks of calm interaction, walking closer, standing quietly beside researchers as if understanding their presence means no harm. It's a fragile trust, but a genuine one. There's something deeply moving in that idea that even across the barrier of species, recognition still matters. Penguins don't speak our language, yet they learn our patterns. They remind us that connection doesn't always need words. Sometimes it begins with stillness, memory, and the simple comfort of seeing a familiar face return again. Penguins communicate visually using head bobs, flipper waves, and posture, a quiet choreography played out across the icy colonies they call home. Where human crowds would dissolve into confusion, penguins maintain order through motion, each gesture carrying meaning learned through instinct and time. A quick head bob might signal curiosity or readiness to move. A slow, repeated nod can be part of courtship, an elegant rhythm that strengthens a bond between mates. Flipper waves, often mistaken for playful behavior, serve as greetings or acknowledgments, especially among familiar neighbors. Even the angle of a penguin's stance matters. A tall, upright posture asserts confidence, while a lowered head and tucked flippers show calm submission or trust. During nesting season, this language becomes especially rich. Partners returning from the sea greet each other with synchronized bows, a ritual of mutual recognition and reassurance. Fights over territory, too, are settled mostly by display. Puffed chests, outstretched necks, and deliberate, measured steps that say, "This space is mine," without a single peck exchanged. It's communication stripped to its essentials: body, balance, and intent. For researchers observing from a distance, watching a colony feels like reading an unspoken dialogue. Thousands of birds move in constant interaction, yet rarely collide or falter. Their communication is efficient, respectful, and precise, a society that thrives on rhythm rather than noise. In a world often too loud with words, penguins remind us that meaning can live in motion. A tilt of the head, a flick of a flipper, a shift in stance, all speak the same universal truth. Connection doesn't always need a voice. Sometimes presence itself is the message, carried gracefully through the language of stillness and movement. Their braying call gave the African penguin the nickname jackass penguin, a title both humorous and oddly fitting. Along the sunlit coasts of South Africa and Namibia, their colonies echo, not with delicate chirps, but with loud, resonant calls that sound astonishingly like a donkey's bray. It's startling the first time you hear it, a deep honking rhythm rising and falling across the beach, carried by the wind and the surf. This call isn't random noise, it's communication layered with purpose. African penguins use it to find their partners, defend their nests, or assert presence within the crowded colony. Each bird's bray is slightly different, shaped by individual pitch and cadence, allowing mates to recognize each other through the chaos of sound. During the breeding season, the beaches come alive with this chorus, hundreds of brays overlapping in a strange, beautiful orchestra of devotion and defiance. The name jackass penguin, though playful, reflects just how distinct their voice truly is. For early explorers, the sound must have been both comic and uncanny, echoing through rocky coves under the southern sun. Yet behind the oddness lies a kind of poetry, a reminder that expression takes many forms, and that communication in nature is never bound by beauty or convention. To hear these penguins is to feel the landscape come alive. Sea spray, heat, wind, and the calls of creatures who have turned noise into meaning. What seems like chaos is, in truth, connection. Each bray a message across the dunes, a declaration that they are home, alive, and unafraid to be heard. Even in their most comical moments, penguins teach us something deeply human, that every voice, no matter how strange, deserves to echo against the world. Penguins can synchronize group movements like choreographed dancers, entire flocks moving in perfect rhythm without a single leader. Whether diving into the sea, porpoising across the surface, or shifting together in a huddle, their collective motion is fluid, precise, and instinctively shared. Watching them feels almost like witnessing a ballet shaped by wind and water. In the ocean, hundreds of penguins can dive and surface together, each body cutting through the water at the same moment, creating flashes of silver beneath the waves. Scientists believe this synchronization confuses predators and increases hunting success. When one bird finds a school of fish, the others adjust instantly, turning and twisting in the same direction as if guided by invisible cues. Each motion is timed, every flick of a flipper, every arc of a scent, forming a living current of coordination. On land, the same harmony appears in the great emperor huddles, where thousands of birds shift imperceptibly to share warmth. The entire group rotates like a slow-breathing organism, each penguin taking its turn at the freezing edge before moving back toward the center. No one commands it, yet every bird knows when to move. The result is survival through balance, instinct turned into music. From above, their movements trace patterns across sea and snow, spontaneous yet ordered, purposeful yet graceful. It's nature's dance, not of ego or display, but of unity and rhythm born from shared necessity. In the penguin's world, motion has meaning. Their steps, dives, and turns remind us that harmony doesn't always require direction. Sometimes it's enough to move together, trusting that the rhythm of life itself will keep the group in sync, flowing perfectly between sea, sky, and ice. They mimic each other's preening habits, a quiet ritual of trust and companionship in the crowded world of penguins. When one bird begins to smooth its feathers, another nearby often follows, tilting its head, lifting its flippers, and echoing the same slow rhythm. What begins as a simple act of grooming becomes a form of unspoken conversation, a mirrored dance that says, "We belong together here." Preening keeps their feathers waterproof and aligned, essential for warmth and flight through water. But among penguins, it goes deeper. This mimicry is social, even affectionate. Mates often face one another, gently preening side by side or tending to the feathers around each other's necks, places a penguin cannot reach alone. In those small gestures lies intimacy, care offered and mirrored, affection returned in kind. Groups, too, fall into rhythm. A single bird begins the motion, and within moments dozens follow, their movements synchronizing into a wave of calm amid the noise of the colony. Researchers believe this behavior helps reduce tension and reinforce cooperation, a kind of social harmony expressed through touch and timing. From a distance, it looks almost meditative. Hundreds of black and white forms standing in the wind, heads dipping and rising in gentle unison. There's no leader, no pattern, only the shared instinct to reflect comfort where it's given. In a harsh world of ice and hunger, such small acts carry quiet grace. Penguins remind us that connection doesn't always need words or grand gestures. Sometimes it's found in the simplest mimicry, in mirroring peace, in tending what protects us, and in finding warmth not just from feathers, but from the presence of another who moves the same way beside you. Some penguins appear to apologize by bowing after accidental collisions, a tiny act of grace in the middle of their crowded, bustling colonies. With thousands of birds packed closely together, bumps and brushes are inevitable. Yet, instead of responding with aggression, a penguin often pauses, lowers its head, and gives a small, deliberate bow toward the one it has disturbed. The other bird usually mirrors the gesture, and then both move on peacefully, as if the matter has been settled with quiet courtesy. To human eyes, it looks remarkably polite, almost comical, but it serves a vital purpose. In colonies where every inch of space is contested, small misunderstandings can lead to serious fights. The bow, researchers believe, is a signal of goodwill, a nonverbal way of saying no harm meant. It's a behavior rooted in self-preservation and social harmony, helping maintain calm amid the chaos of thousands of lives side by side. This same bowing gesture appears in other contexts too. Mates greet one another with synchronized nods, reinforcing bonds through mirrored motion. Parents bow before feeding chicks, signaling readiness and safety. The movement carries meaning across situations, from affection to apology, always emphasizing peace over conflict. Watching them, it's hard not to feel a kind of admiration. These small creatures, braving cold and hunger, still find time for civility. In their world, respect isn't shown with words, but through posture, a simple lowering of the head, a silent acknowledgement that coexistence matters. Perhaps that's the quiet wisdom of the penguin, that even in the most crowded, competitive spaces, harmony survives, when beings remember to bow, not in defeat, but in understanding. They can navigate home using Earth's magnetic field, a hidden sense that guides them across vast, featureless oceans. Long after leaving their colonies for weeks or months at sea, penguins return unerringly to the same beaches, the same nesting sites, sometimes even the same partners, waiting among thousands of identical calls. No maps, no stars, no trail to follow, only an ancient compass embedded deep within their biology. Scientists have long been fascinated by this invisible guidance system. Evidence suggests that penguins, like many migratory birds, can perceive Earth's magnetic field through microscopic crystals of magnetite in their tissues, or specialized light-sensitive proteins in their eyes. These biological tools allow them to see magnetic lines of force, turning the planet itself into a silent, glowing grid of direction. For a creature living in a world of open water and endless snow, this sense is essential. The Antarctic offers few visual landmarks, only ice, wind, and horizon. Yet, penguins travel hundreds of kilometers to feed and return to the exact same patch of land where they were born. Even young birds, leaving for the first time, often find their way back years later to start families of their own. There's something almost poetic about it, navigation not through sight, but through feeling. A trust in the unseen. To imagine them gliding under gray skies, guided by the faint pull of the planet itself, is to see nature's design at its most subtle and profound. In a world where humans need maps and machines to find their way, penguins simply know. Their compass is quiet, constant, and eternal, a reminder that sometimes the surest direction comes not from what we see, but from what we instinctively understand. Penguins dream during short naps, their eyes flickering beneath closed lids in tiny bursts of movement, the unmistakable sign of REM sleep. Between long hours of standing guard or swimming through frigid seas, they find rest in fragments, a few seconds here, a minute there, a stillness that renews them without ever leaving them vulnerable. Yet even in those brief moments, their minds wander somewhere beyond the snow. Researchers observing captive and wild penguins have noticed these subtle twitches, small shifts in the eyes, flippers, or head that mirror the behavior of dreaming mammals. REM, or rapid eye movement, is the stage of sleep linked to imagination, memory, and mental replay. It's when humans dream, when dogs run in their sleep, and, it seems, when penguins drift through their own hidden visions. What do they dream about in those seconds of surrender? Perhaps of the rhythmic sway of the sea, the shimmer of fish darting through green light, or the familiar call of a mate echoing across the colony. Their world is one of motion and sound. Maybe their dreams are too. Even the simplest creatures parry the spark of inner life, where experience turns into a quiet story. They nap standing upright, balancing like statues, or floating at sea with heads tucked gently against their chests. For them, sleep is survival woven with vigilance, rest without abandonment. It's comforting to imagine these resilient birds, shaped by endurance and cold, still needing the soft refuge of dreams. In a land where nights can last months, and storms erase the horizon, even penguins close their eyes and visit the world within. Proof that no matter how strong a being must be, every soul still drifts toward peace when sleep calls. Some species use pebbles as tools, rolling, tapping, and testing them before choosing the perfect ones for their nests. Among Adelie and Gentoo penguins, these tiny stones are more than decoration. They are the foundations of life itself. Each pebble helps lift the eggs above melting snow or pooling water, keeping the next generation dry and safe. But the way penguins choose them hints at something deeper, a kind of quiet intelligence hidden beneath instinct. Observers have watched penguins approach piles of stones with surprising deliberation. They pick one up, turn it in their beaks, drop it, and sometimes tap it again before deciding whether it's worthy of their nest. They seem to test for firmness, shape, and weight, rejecting those that roll too easily or crumble under pressure. Once the right stones are gathered, they fit them together carefully, stacking each piece until the circular mound forms, ready for eggs and warmth. In some colonies, these pebbles even become tokens of courtship, gifts exchanged between mates as gestures of partnership and commitment. A male may spend hours collecting and arranging stones, and if a female approves of his skill, she joins him to build the nest side by side. It's both architecture and affection, logic and love bound in a single ritual. To see a penguin lift a pebble is to glimpse a kind of artistry, an understanding of weight, balance, and comfort, born not from reason, but from generations of careful adaptation. In a world of ice, they build with stone. Their tools are simple, their purpose profound. Proof that even the smallest acts of creation begin with thought, patience, and the quiet wisdom to test the ground before you trust it. Penguins molt all their feathers at once. An event so dramatic it's called a catastrophic molt. For a few strange weeks each year, the sleek, polished look that defines them gives way to a disheveled, patchy state of transition. Feathers loosen and fall in tufts, replaced by new ones growing rapidly beneath. During this time, they cannot swim, for their coat, once waterproof and aerodynamic, becomes heavy and porous, letting in cold and water. So they remain ashore, grounded by the very process that will soon set them free again. Unlike most birds, who lose feathers gradually and continue flying or feeding, penguins undergo this transformation all at once. The reason is practical. To stay warm, their feathers must form a perfect seal. A partial molt would leave gaps, exposing them to freezing seas. So instead, they endure this short period of complete renewal, fasting the entire time and relying on stored fat to sustain them. Before molting begins, they feed heavily, building reserves that can sustain weeks of stillness. Then comes the waiting, the wind, the hunger, the slow drift of old feathers piling at their feet. Their appearance turns almost comical, ragged necks, uneven patches, fluffed silhouettes that look more like forgotten toys than master swimmers. Yet beneath the awkwardness, something miraculous unfolds, a full coat of new feathers, sleek and watertight, ready for another year of endurance. When it's over, they return to the transformed ocean. The water slides off their bodies once again like glass, and they dive with renewed grace. The catastrophic molt may sound harsh, but its renewal is disguised as loss, a reminder that even in nature, beauty sometimes requires falling apart before it can begin again. During this period, they cannot swim or feed for several weeks, a forced stillness that tests every part of their endurance. While molting, a penguin's old feathers loosen and fall away, leaving its coat patchy and waterlogged. Without the tight seal of new plumage, the ocean becomes dangerous, too cold, too heavy, too unforgiving. So they stay ashore, waiting, silent and hungry, while the transformation takes its course. In those weeks, they rely entirely on what they stored beforehand. Before molting begins, penguins gorge themselves at sea, building thick layers of fat beneath their skin. These reserves become their only lifeline, sustaining them through long days without hunting. Slowly, as their bodies draw on that energy, they grow lighter, their movements slower, their patience deeper. What looks like idleness is, in truth, survival written in stillness. The process lasts anywhere from 2 to 5 weeks, depending on the species. By the end, they may lose up to half their body weight, but their reward is renewal, a coat of fresh, dense feathers that restores the waterproof armor essential to life in the sea. Once the last old plume falls, they waste no time. The colony stirs, and the newly sleek birds make for the water, where food and motion await. to endure hunger, cold winds, and isolation without fear. That's the quiet power of the penguin. Their fasting is not weakness, but a cycle of faith, a trust that the body will provide, that the new feathers will come, and that the ocean will welcome them back. In a world that rewards constant movement, penguins remind us of something gentler, that renewal sometimes asks for nothing more than the courage to pause and wait. The new coat grows denser and more waterproof than before, a masterpiece of natural engineering, renewed every year through patience and endurance. When the last ragged feathers of molting finally fall away, what emerges is a penguin reborn, sleek, radiant, and perfectly sealed against the cold. Each feather lies tight against the next, forming a continuous layer that traps warmth and sheds water with astonishing efficiency. Up close, the transformation is remarkable. The new feathers are shorter, finer, and packed in greater numbers, more than 100 per square inch, overlapping like scales of living armor. Beneath them, tiny pockets of trapped air form an insulating layer that keeps the penguin warm even in freezing seas. When they dive, that same air reduces friction, allowing them to glide like torpedoes through the water. Every detail, from the curve of a feather's edge to the oil brushed from their preen glands, is designed for endurance. This renewal isn't only cosmetic, it's vital. The old coat, worn by wind and salt, eventually loses its seal and becomes heavy. The new one restores everything: warmth, buoyancy, speed, and protection. It's a biological reset that ensures they can return to the sea stronger than before. Watching a freshly molted penguin take its first dive is like seeing joy made visible. The water beads and slides off instantly. The bird cuts through the waves with effortless grace, leaving behind the stillness of land for the freedom of movement again. Nature often hides its strength in cycles, endings that lead quietly to renewal. For penguins, the struggle of molting gives way to resilience in its purest form, the power to emerge not just restored, but better prepared for the cold that never stops coming. Penguins often sunbathe during molting to stay warm, a rare moment of stillness in lives otherwise spent in constant motion. As they shed their old feathers and wait for new ones to grow, their once waterproof coat becomes patchy and useless against the cold. With no ability to swim or hunt, they must rely on stored fat and whatever warmth the sun is willing to give. So they stand quietly, flippers outstretched, eyes half closed, turning their bodies toward the light like living sundials. Across the Antarctic coast or temperate beaches of the south, you can see them lined up in silence, each bird angling just right to catch the sun's warmth. Some spread their wings slightly, increasing the surface area to soak up more heat. Others huddled together, letting sunlight and shared body warmth mingle. It's not idleness, it's survival through serenity, a small act of wisdom written into instinct. Without the sun, their energy would drain quickly. Molting already forces them into a prolonged fast. Warmth from the sunlight helps them conserve the calories they need to endure those weeks on land. Every degree matters. Even in Antarctica's frozen light, the sun gives enough comfort to ease their long wait for renewal. There's a quiet beauty in the sight, birds of the cold turning to the sky for warmth, their patience glowing under the pale sun. No urgency, no panic, just the understanding that time and light will do their work. For penguins, the sun is more than warmth. It's a reminder that stillness, too, can sustain life. In a place ruled by ice, they teach us that survival isn't always about movement or struggle. Sometimes it's about knowing when to stand still and let the light hold you. Their feathers grow in microscopic overlapping layers that repel oil and water, a masterpiece of natural design woven at the tiniest scale. At first glance, a penguin's coat seems like smooth velvet, but under a microscope it reveals astonishing complexity. Thousands of short, stiff feathers packed so densely that even air has trouble slipping between them. Each feather overlaps the next like roof tiles, creating an interlocking barrier that deflects both cold and wet. When penguins dive, this intricate layering works with precision. The outer surface repels seawater instantly, while the inner layer traps tiny bubbles of air. Those bubbles do more than insulate. They also reduce drag, letting the bird glide through the ocean with graceful efficiency. A penguin in motion seems to shimmer beneath the surface, a blur of silver light caused by air slipping off its feathers as it moves. Their preen gland, located near the base of the tail, adds another layer of brilliance. With their beaks, penguins draw out a waxy oil and spread it across their feathers, reinforcing the waterproof seal. This natural coating also prevents salt buildup and protects against bacteria, a full-body armor polished daily by instinct and patience. Even after decades of study, scientists still marvel at how perfectly this system balances warmth, buoyancy, and movement. Each microscopic barb and groove has a purpose, working in harmony with the whole. It's easy to overlook the small things in nature, but in the life of a penguin, survival depends on them. Every dive, every gust of wind, every frozen wave is met by feathers that don't simply protect, they adapt, repel, and shine. From the outside, it's just a bird's coat. Beneath, it's an elegant equation of physics and life, stitched into every fiber. Emperor penguins march up to 120 kilometers inland to breed. An odyssey of endurance across a landscape of silence and wind. When the Antarctic summer fades and the sea begins to freeze, these birds turn away from the water and start their long, patient journey toward the heart of the ice. They walk for days, their black and white figures dotting the endless white horizon, each step a quiet defiance against the coldest place on earth. The reason for this march lies in survival. Near the coast, the ice is too unstable, prone to cracking and melting as the season changes. But farther inland, where the cold is constant and the ice thickens into solid plains, the ground holds steady long enough for chicks to hatch and grow before the next thaw. It's there, deep within the frozen desert, that emperors gather in vast colonies, their voices rising in soft, echoing calls that sound like wind made living. Temperatures can plunge below -50 degrees Celsius, and storms sweep across the plateau. But the penguins press on. They move in single file, conserving energy, resting together in small groups when the wind grows too fierce. The journey may take weeks, yet none turn back. When they arrive, pairs form, and the slow rhythm of life begins again. Eggs laid, cradled on feet, guarded through the long polar night. Each year they repeat the march, never forgetting the way, guided by instinct older than memory. It is not just a migration, it's an act of faith, a pilgrimage written into their blood. In a world defined by extremes, emperor penguins remind us that devotion can be measured not in warmth or comfort, but in distance, in each quiet step taken for the sake of life yet to come. Some species swim thousands of kilometers each year to reach their feeding grounds, an epic journey through some of the planet's most remote and unforgiving waters. Long after breeding season ends, when chicks have grown and the colonies quiet, penguins turn toward the open sea. They vanish into the waves for months, following invisible paths that lead them to rich currents teeming with fish, squid, and krill. King penguins are among the great travelers of the southern oceans. They have been tracked covering more than 3,000 kilometers in a single season, gliding through dark waters under perpetual daylight or polar night. Macaroni and rockhopper penguins, too, journey far beyond their nesting islands, tracing the edges of cold currents that rise from the deep to feed the living sea. They travel in small groups or alone, each one carried by instinct and the rhythm of tides. The ocean offers no landmarks, no scent of home, yet they navigate flawlessly, guided perhaps by Earth's magnetic field, the position of the sun, or the memory of the sea itself. When feeding is done and the season turns, they make the long return trip with the same quiet certainty, finding their colonies again across thousands of kilometers of open ocean. From above, their migrations seem small, just faint lines across vast blue. But within those lines lies the story of endurance, of lungs built for depth, muscles made for distance, and a heart tuned to the patience of water. In a world defined by motion, penguins turn travel into devotion. Their journeys aren't about escape or adventure. They are acts of rhythm, of faith in the planet's cycles, of life following the pulse of the ocean that has always carried it home. Penguins navigate by stars, coastline, and even ocean currents. Travelers who read the earth in ways we can only imagine. When they leave their colonies and vanish into the open ocean, there are no markers, no paths, no visible guides. Yet months later, they return with astonishing precision to the very stretch of shore where they first hatched, as if the sky, the sea, and the planet itself whisper directions only they can hear. At night, scientists believe they look to the stars. Many seabirds use celestial cues to orient themselves, and penguins are no exception. On clear nights above the Southern Ocean, the slow rotation of the stars offers a reliable compass, a glowing map written across the dark. By day, the shape of the coastline and the glint of sunlight on the water help them maintain course. Even beneath the waves, they seem to sense the subtle tug of currents, using those invisible rivers as guides through vast, shifting seas. These abilities work together like threads in a single tapestry of movement. A penguin doesn't think in directions or distances. It feels its way through a web of patterns, magnetic lines, the pull of tide, the taste of salt and temperature. Every journey becomes an act of harmony with the planet's rhythms. To us, navigation means tools and maps. To them, it's trust, in memory, in motion, in the ancient signals of the earth itself. They are, in a sense, the sea's quiet cartographers, charting their world not with ink or numbers, but through instinct and starlight. And every year, as they find their way home once more, they remind us that the universe leaves signs everywhere, if only we still knew how to read them. They sense changes in salinity to locate productive waters, a quiet ability that turns the vast, empty ocean into a map of opportunity. To human senses, the sea feels uniform, endless, indistinguishable from one wave to the next. But to a penguin, every current tells a story. Slight variations in salt and temperature reveal where the ocean stirs with life, where cold, nutrient-rich water rises from the depths to feed the plankton blooms that nourish the fish they seek. When ice melts or rain falls over the sea, salinity drops ever so slightly. These areas often mark the meeting points of currents, boundaries where ecosystems awaken in bursts of abundance. Penguins, guided by sensitivity beyond sight or smell, move instinctively toward these invisible borders. Their bodies feel what our instruments must measure: the faint change in density, the subtle shift of taste carried through the tongue and beak. By following these clues, they find the living arteries of the ocean, places where krill swarm, where small fish gather in shimmering clouds, where life multiplies beneath the waves. Their journeys, often stretching hundreds of kilometers, are guided not by chance, but by the quiet language of water. This awareness is part instinct, part memory, passed through generations, refined by time. To watch a penguin vanish into the surf is to see trust embodied. Trust in an ocean that still speaks to those who know how to listen. The sea gives no directions, yet they never lose their way. They follow the softest hints, the salt on the tongue, the pull of the current, to find what they need to live. In their silent navigation, penguins remind us that abundance often hides in the subtlest shifts of the world around us. Tracking studies show they return to the same rock ledges each year, the same cracks, the same stones, even the same winds that carve across the cliffs. For penguins, home isn't just a place, it's a point in memory, carried like a compass through storms and endless ocean miles. Scientists fitting small tracking devices on their backs have discovered a pattern both astonishing and tender, After months at sea, these birds reappear with uncanny precision at the exact ledge where they once nested. Some of these locations are no larger than a doorstep, yet they matter deeply. The chosen rocks have just the right height above the tide, the right angle to shelter eggs from wind, the right texture to build a pebble nest that won't slide away. Even when the sea ice shifts or the weather patterns change, penguins find their way back, guided by a mix of magnetic sense, star position, and what can only be called memory. On these ledges, generations overlap. A young penguin raised on a particular rock may return years later to raise chicks of its own. Over time, a colony becomes not just a gathering of birds, but a continuity, a living chain of return stretching across decades. There's something profoundly human in that cycle. We too return again and again to the places that hold our stories, not because they are perfect, but because they are ours. For penguins, these ledges are the thread between sea and sky, hunger and home. They stand where their parents once stood, listening to the same wind, the same waves. In a world always shifting, their fidelity is a quiet promise that home, once found, never truly leaves you, even when the journey is long. Their main predators in the water are leopard seals, orcas, and sharks, swift hunters of the deep that turn the sea into a realm of constant vigilance. For penguins, the ocean is both home and hazard, a place that feeds them but never forgives carelessness. Every dive is a balance between hunger and survival, between the need to eat and the need to escape unseen teeth waiting below. Leopard seals, sleek and powerful, are perhaps their most relentless pursuers. They lurk at the edges of the ice, their dark shapes blending with shadowed water. When a penguin approaches, the seal explodes upward, jaws snapping in a burst of bubbles and spray. Orcas, too, patrol these waters, intelligent social hunters capable of coordinated attacks. Even certain sharks in temperate regions have learned to wait near colonies, striking as penguins return to shore. Against such predators, penguins have evolved remarkable agility. They dart and twist underwater like living arrows, turning at impossible angles to outmaneuver larger foes. Many travel in groups, knowing that safety often comes in numbers. When surfacing, they leap clear from the water in fast, arcing bursts, porpoising, to spot danger before it's too late. Still, the ocean always claims some. Predation is not cruelty, but rhythm, the cycle that keeps balance within the cold blue expanse. Every seal's chase, every penguin's escape is part of a greater conversation between life and necessity. To watch it unfold is to witness nature's quiet agreement that beauty cannot exist without peril, that grace grows sharper in the shadow of risk. Penguins live within that truth daily, gliding through waters that both sustain and threaten them, trusting their speed, their instincts, and the thin margin between predator and survivor. On land, skuas and giant petrels prey on eggs and chicks, swift, opportunistic hunters circling above the colonies where life begins. To the penguin, the land may seem safer than the sea, but danger finds its way even across the ice. As adults guard their nests, the sky itself becomes a threat. Broad wings sweeping low, sharp eyes searching for the smallest moment of neglect. Skuas are clever thieves. They watch patiently from a distance, waiting for a parent to leave its nest just long enough to stretch or seek a pebble. In that instant, they strike, diving fast, snatching an egg or chick before the parent can react. Giant petrels, larger and bolder, sometimes patrol the outskirts of colonies, feeding on the fallen or seizing the weak during storms. Their cries carry over the ice like echoes of hunger, a constant reminder that survival here is never guaranteed. But penguins are not helpless. They defend their nests fiercely, hunching low and using sharp beaks to fend off intruders. In crowded colonies, hundreds of parents stand shoulder to shoulder, a living fortress of vigilance and noise. A single alarm call can send dozens of birds bracing together, each protecting what matters most beneath their bellies. It's a cruel balance, but a necessary one. The predators, too, must eat, and in their hunger they shape the colony's rhythm, teaching penguins caution, awareness, and cooperation. To watch this dance between defense and danger is to see nature's delicate truth, that love, in its purest form, is often guarded by struggle. The penguin's world is not peaceful, but it is devoted, a place where courage looks like stillness, and where every cry in the wind is a promise to protect life no matter how small. Penguins often freeze motionless when threatened. Their tuxedo camouflage works best that way. In a world of predators that see movement before color, stillness becomes a form of brilliance. Against the fractured light of ice and shadow, their black backs blend seamlessly into the water's darkness, while their white fronts mirror the bright surface above. It's a perfect illusion. The ocean hides them from below, the sky hides them from above, and silence completes the disguise. When a shadow passes overhead, a skua or a petrel searching for weakness, a penguin's best defense is often to stop completely. The instinct to run or flap would only give it away. Instead, it lowers its head, tucks its wings close, and becomes part of the landscape, one more piece of black and white amid snow and stone. Even on land, among colonies of thousands, this stillness has power. A predator's eye, overwhelmed by patterns, struggles to pick out one motionless shape from the sea of forms. The tuxedo look, once seen as charming or comic, is in truth a masterpiece of evolution, a blend of elegance and survival. It allows penguins to move invisibly through two worlds, gleaming white ice above and endless blue below. The strategy is simple but profound. Live by knowing when not to move. In that frozen calm lies a lesson about restraint. Sometimes safety doesn't come from speed or strength, but from knowing when to pause, to blend with what surrounds you, to let danger pass like wind over stone. The penguin's stillness is not fear, but wisdom, a quiet acknowledgement that sometimes the best way to endure a hostile world is to become part of it until the threat fades and life can move again. They sometimes group in tight circles to protect young from aerial attacks, a living shield of feathers and courage rising out of the ice. When skuas or giant petrels wheel overhead, scanning for unguarded chicks, the colony reacts as one. Adult penguins shuffle inward, forming a dense wall of bodies, each bird pressed shoulder to shoulder, while the youngest huddle safely in the center. From above, the formation looks almost like a single organism, pulsing and shifting with purpose, a quiet choreography of defense written by instinct, not thought. This collective behavior isn't commanded, it simply happens. One bird senses danger, another follows, and within seconds the entire group moves as if sharing one nervous system. The outer penguins stand tall, facing outward, their sharp beaks lifted like spears. They don't chase or fight. They endure. Unity becomes armor. The predators circle, calling harshly, waiting for an opening that never comes. Eventually, frustrated, they drift away, and the circle loosens again into a sea of calm. In such moments, the penguin colony becomes a reminder of how life survives not through solitude, but through connection. Each bird knows that its safety depends on the strength of the group, that in giving protection, it receives it in return. To witness this defense is to see empathy translated into motion. There's no heroism here, no single savior, only hundreds of small hearts beating in unison against the cold in the sky. In a world where the strong often stand alone, penguins show a gentler truth. Survival can be collective. Courage can be quiet. And sometimes the surest way to face danger is simply to stand together, shoulder to shoulder, until the threat passes and peace returns to the ice. Penguins slap intruders with strong flipper blows capable of bruising, a surprising display of force from creatures so often seen as harmless and endearing. Beneath their smooth feathers and comic waddle lies a body built for precision and power. Their flippers, evolved from ancient seabirds, are dense with muscle and bone, designed to push through icy water like blades. When turned toward defense, those same tools strike with stunning speed and accuracy. Territorial disputes in a penguin colony can be fierce. Space is precious, and every nest, every pebble carries meaning. When an intruder approaches too close, whether a rival suitor or a bold neighbor, the defending penguin straightens, spreads its flippers, and delivers a sharp, sideways blow. The sound echoes through the colony, a soft thud of muscle against feathers, sometimes followed by a rapid exchange of strikes. What might look amusing from afar is in truth a serious confrontation. A determined penguin can drive back even larger opponents. Its strikes strong enough to bruise through layers of down and skin. These battles rarely last long. Once the boundary is re-established, calm returns as quickly as it was lost. Penguins live by rhythm, moments of tension followed by long stretches of cooperation. Their power exists not for domination, but for defense, protection of nests, of mates, of fragile lives tucked beneath warm bodies. There's something profoundly balanced about their nature, capable of tenderness one moment and raw strength the next. They remind us that gentleness does not mean weakness, and that peace is often maintained by those who quietly know how to fight for it when they must. In the frozen silence of their world, even the softest creatures learn to stand firm, not with rage, but with the strength of devotion.